Okay, let's begin and stand. Today is Wednesday, July 22. We'll have a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. Heavenly Father, we come to you today and just thank you, first of all, for getting our lights and air conditioning fixed this morning after that electrical power outage. We come to you today to do some annual planning for our budget, and we ask for your guidance and direction on each and every subject matter that we discuss throughout this process over the next couple of months. Just guide our discussions today, help us glean the information we need, and make the appropriate decision to be as conservative with the money that you provide for us as we can. We turn the meeting over to you now in Christ's name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, welcome to our first of our budget planning meetings for the budget year 2021. Today is Wednesday, July 22, 2020, just after 9 a.m. And this is our workshop, and we will be meeting today until around the noon hour with department heads regarding budget discussions. So we will begin with our first. We have Judy Cook, our tax collector, and she will begin here with our first spot. So Judy, Melissa, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning. I basically am leaving everything the same as what I had in my budget this prior year. My software maintenance increased a little bit, not a whole lot.
When is that due?
That's for the tax side.
Yeah, but when is it due? Is it?
It's split into 4 payments.
Okay, but they tell you how much it is. Obviously, they do that every year. So
yes.
that's a to the penny amount that'll be split out over 4 payments during the fiscal year. Okay.
Yeah. That's really the only change that I have on it for this upcoming year.
What have we used in the past in that office expense line?
That varies. 2019, it was $6,219. That's where a lot of the money is spent on that is the tax statements for the current year. The supplies suit is needed for that, and basically I never know exactly how much they're going to cost from year to year. And this next year, of course, Melissa will have to be ordering things with her name on it and take mine off.
So it could be a higher than normal year.
It could be, basically, it's just something, like I said, especially with tax statements. And then we print the statements twice a year in the office, plus our big mail out in October.
So the last time we even came close was in 18. We spent nearly $8,000. So we've been shy of that 11, but because of the transition and the requirement to replace supplies with new names, maybe we should leave it there rather than bringing it down. Okay.
I would just feel a little bit better knowing that she's taken care of.
No anticipated capital outlay expenses for the year?
No, I'm not anticipating any really.
All right, fairly straightforward. Commissioners, any questions?
Nope.
What's your total employee count over there right now?
8.
8.
5 in auto, 3 in taxes.
Okay. Will you replace yourself with someone, full-time person?
Yeah, hardly do anyone part-time in those offices. It would be difficult to do a part-time.
All right. That was an easy one. Thanks, ladies.
All right. Thank y'all.
All right.
Thank y'all.
All right, y'all.
Thank y'all.
All right, well, let's go ahead and proceed. 9:15, Cheryl, no Cheryl. Ready? Will you buzz Cheryl, see if you're ready?
What you need? Use your shirt tail.
No, it's usually phone using Usually it means the batteries getting weak.
Color in here.
No way of
Color
telling
in here.
which one it is either.
You bring candy? All right, bring her blankets up in here. It'll be hot later on. I'm good. I don't need nothing. Thank you. Thank you. But when you get here, you get paranoid. Think you're gonna cough. Everybody look at you. Try not to cough and sneeze in here on everybody.
We're loading now.
Me?
Yeah, that's you.
I think it's my glasses.
Barbara's phone. It's Barbara on the phone.
2 teeth fillings.
Come on, Cheryl. Is this as easy as it looks, Cheryl?
This is very easy. I didn't ask for any increase or decrease.
We're not impressed. We're looking for decreases.
I know, and I thought and thought and thought and more.
All right. Anything we need to know about, discuss, question?
I think we had taken the computer expense out a while back because I'd gotten a new one. I can't even tell you what year. Right now, mine is working fine, so I don't foresee, I know, don't we trade those out every so often? And
Yeah, how new is yours?
that's what I just said. I'd have to look back to see when I got one, but I think I'm still good on mine.
I think we've got enough replacement machines available should you need, but have you gotten one since you've been in office?
Yes.
Commissioners, any questions for Cheryl? As you can see, she's requested the same identical numbers as the current budget?
Those checks that I buy, they're very expensive, but, you know, the more you buy, the bigger discount. So I did buy quite a few of those the last time, so I don't even think I'll be needing any, hopefully, coming year.
Thank you. Well, we can let the firemen begin if you have nothing else for Cheryl. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cheryl. Thanks, Cheryl.
Let's flip the page over here to page 23 there in your budget. We have not yet finished conversations, or really we haven't even begun. I've had some brief conversations with the city manager about fire protection. As you can see, our budget there for 2020 was $894,492. I anticipate requesting an extension on that current contract rather than a complete revision for a 10-year. That's what Ed Thatcher and I had discussed. He understands the need for both of us to keep expenses curtailed this year. So I anticipate there will be some expense that increases there related to that fire protection, but I don't anticipate a renewal of that 10-year contract that we knew was coming in 2021. So let's just throw out a figure there. Let's say that it went up $100,000. When are we going to cross that point where you guys are going to want to discuss doing something besides paying the city of Mount Pleasant for fire protection?
I have a sheet of paper how much we went up in the last 4 or 5 years. It's pretty unbelievable that we even have in 2019, 800, this is what we, I mean, 2013, $388,944 to the city to help the volunteer fire department. 2014, $394,000. Then in 2015, went to $626,000 because it said the problem getting volunteers. Certain fire departments have a trouble keeping volunteers, so they said 3 firemen would create a day shift because most people were working during the day, and we volunteered to increase it to $60,000. They said 3 men would take to do it. Raised it in 2015, $394,440, $626,000. Then in 16, we raised it. There was some more in there. But in 2016, there was a truck in there, part of the truck. But 2016, we went down to $505,000, and then 2017, $553,000. Then 2018. We went to $848,000. That's a $300,000 increase because they just said that they wanted it, and we gave it to them. In 2019, it was $874,000, like we said, plus from 2020 we did $1,194,199, but we included $305,000. But we went from $874,000. You can check with the other. Hopkins County has a county fire department. They have 7 full-time employees, and their total cost, including their thing, is less than, well, I got about $80,000. That's the difference. I don't know where you stop. Where do you stop just handing out money to because somebody says we need it? I understand it's not popular right now. Fire, the first responders are the main thing, and this. not politically correct, but somewhere there has to be a limit to everything. And if we, as a taxpayer, I expect this Commissioners Court to get the best value for the dollar that we pay in taxes. That's it.
Well, and the question comes down, let me change these batteries. Okay. Change our batteries. I think you've got to divide that question up into how much fire protection is needed, and then the second half of that question is how much should that level of fire protection cost? And I've seen the numbers, we've all seen the numbers that the city presents to us. We've seen Chief McRae's justification and Mike Aaron's justification for what they have charged us. We have agreed to it. That cost doesn't get any cheaper as demands on their department go up. I think it's more a matter of how much fire protection do we want to provide for our citizens. You can always begin the conversation of separating away from the city and providing your own standalone fire protection. We've had that discussion as well. We had 3 years ago, I guess, we had a consultant come in, and the consultant, who was not biased, said, based on the size of our community, they felt it was best to maintain a joint cooperation between the city and the county would be the most efficient way to do it. And so that was the basis of our decision a few years ago. Now, right now, you've got a contract that stipulates how many trucks and how many firefighters show up each time there is a call. I know that the city of Mount Pleasant regularly exceeds that as far as what they win to each one of our fires. So begin the discussion with consideration of, are we providing too much fire protection? Are we over? Do we have Thank you, sir. Just, are we planning for more protection than we really need? Do we have it about right? Do we want to just say we can no longer afford this level of fire protection? That's the way that I see it. I don't think that the city is charging an unreasonable amount for what they provide. I think that's a fairly objective figure that can be determined and shown to you based on the number of fire calls that the city of Mount Pleasant responds to, based on their budget, what it costs to provide that many firefighters to be able to take care of not only the city but the county as well. So I don't think that's a big variable there. I don't think you're going to be successful in beating down the city in the level of service that they provide. Now, you may come to an agreement and say, we do not want you to provide service under these circumstances, or we don't want you to exceed this number of firefighters reporting to a call. And perhaps they would adjust it based on that. But there's a certain dollar amount that they know they're going to have to spend in order to have the right amount of people on duty where they could respond to both a city matter as well as a county matter at the same time. And obviously they don't want to be below that on a regular basis and have to tell the county, sorry, we have no one available to send to you. Any thoughts from you guys? Because we are going to have to face this decision soon. You may have to face it this year based on the figure that the city comes back to us with as far as how much they're willing to continue the same level of service at what price. And I do see, again, somewhere in, I'm going to guess between $50,000 and $80,000 increase would be my guess.
Well, all I can say is if I asked my kids how much allowance they needed, they would come up with a big, nice number. not different from mine. We asked the fire department, and I've been listening to them 8 years, and what they want and what they need, you got to separate it somewhere, and we're letting them determine, like the study that you're talking about, they hired the people to do it and supervise.
No, we jointly hired them.
Oh, we only paid. Yeah,
We jointly hired them.
okay.
Well, they are the ones providing that service. That's typically the way that it works. We're not providing service to them, so they would typically be the one that provides that price tag to you if they're providing the service.
I think that's a very tremendous increase from 2013 of $388,000 to, not counting the truck.
No doubt about it, it's a big increase. Opinions from any of you guys?
I hadn't thought of that. Ask them if they could cut back some of their services, see if they would cut back, see what a minimum would be versus a medium level versus what we got now, because that may save us some money, and we can try that before we try to increase more.
Well, you've got some
stuff.
experts here. You might want to ask them that question.
Because they do have a lot of protection. I mean, there's no doubt, but we might could cut some of that back.
Do the volunteers help the city fire department at different times on different type of fires? I believe that they do, but I'm not sure.
Get called when it's something big. Yeah.
Golly.
So, I mean, that's a thought. We ain't really got into it real deep with them to see yet on what they could come up with, but they're projecting their figures at saying, well, we need to build another fire station, make sure we can cover y'all. We need to add 6 more firefighters, and as they've added them through the years, what if we say stop and cut back even and see where that's going to lead to those figures, what's going to cost us. Otherwise, before we go the other way with volunteer fire departments hiring full-time and going that route, we need to talk to the city manager and ask him about if he could put some figures or
Well, again,
what he would say, or if they just say, no, we're not going to do it.
The figures that they're charging us are based on the contractual obligations that they have as far as the number of trucks and again, they always exceed that. So if you're going to say,
send extras.
if you're going to say, well, quit exceeding it, just give us what you've promised us, that's not going to change your figure.
That's not
We've
gonna
asked
change
that.
it.
We've asked
Cut
that
back to
question.
maybe one truck and see what happens. They call the volunteer first. They wait 3 minutes. If we don't get responses on stuff, then they send their guys, or they work with them, because a lot of times the volunteer get there first. Just send everybody that can go. Depends on what it is. So we definitely need to do a little negotiating and see where we stand on that. Yeah, it's great protection. It's great. There's no complaint on that for sure.
But I'm thinking, from what I see and all, if we just depend on our volunteers, which I'm one of them, I'm not as active as I was, but if we just depend on us, our citizens' insurance is going to skyrocket. It's if we haven't got that level of protection guaranteed that we're going to have somebody there, then our insurance is going to skyrocket, the citizens. So, I mean, you've got to look at it that way too.
Mm-hmm. Well, at Tri-Lakes, aren't they pretty high level coverage, Jerry, as far as insurance purposes and such? Because they're rated higher. They're rated pretty good. You could tell Mount Pleasant not to respond to the Tri-Lakes area, and cut back. I don't know, I just don't want to risk everybody working and somebody couldn't go.
Something happens about that, they're not coming out there. They've got the other county maintenance.
Well, you know, before we lock in a figure here, we're obviously going to have some conversation with the city, and we've got some time there. But I've had enough conversation over the past couple of years with the chief to know that we're not just going to request a price reduction here and them say, okay, that's fine. We'll just absorb that.
Yeah.
You get what you pay
get
for.
Less, or they're just going to say no, we're not going to participate. So that's up to them too. We're just putting off a major initial investment too. I mean, we can pay it out high prices every year. We're putting off, investing lots of dollars in some extra equipment, or even some of our own full-time folks. Like I said, we're going to have to, I don't know what the breaking point's going to be, but maybe we can do some trimming back and get our ideas together for some future, something here in the near future to save us.
For the time being, I'm going to suggest that you go with a figure of $950,000 on this budget. But before we lock that in, Barbara, we'll get some figures from the city and see, just refresh everybody about what the city's position is on this. And then again, you've got multiple decisions. Do you break away from the city, form your own full-time department, and be prepared for all the expenses that go along with that, from the basic pay to all the benefits to having an adequate number of shifts available. You don't just do this with 3 people. You've got to plan for 3 shifts. You've got to buy equipment that the city might normally provide. So there's a lot more expenses here than meets the eye if you're going to develop your own department and have it be functional and accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish. Now again, if you're willing to tell the citizens, we're not going to be able to provide what we used to provide in the good old days because we separated from the city, that'll be a tough discussion. So unless you have any other ideas from right now, that's what I'm going to suggest is, we wait on this figure and have a conversation with Chief McRae and with Ed Thatcher.
Yeah, I agree with that for now. I was kind of hoping they'd just freeze it like last year for this year.
Well, we were still under a contract last year. It's time that contract expires this year, and so that's why there's got to be either a renewal of that 10-year contract or a new contract for a lesser number of years, or possibly an extension. And that's what I had asked Ed Thatcher if he would be willing to do, would be to extend this for now without renewing an entire new contract.
Okay.
Unless there's any other discussion, let's welcome any of our firefighters, and I would appreciate any comments you might have on this subject. Give us your opinion on what we're discussing here. So, Chief Clark, I'm just going to recognize seniority here. Would you come up to the table here? And I know you've got some things you want to discuss with us, but we've asked you this a dozen times in the past: is what does the county do when we get to the position that we're in, with all factors considered, where you're paying a large amount of money? I'm not saying the city's gouging us or that they're not gouging us. What's your thoughts? Help us with this.
Well, number one, Al, your figures are wrong on Hopkins County. They always have been. I've been in touch with Hopkins County. I've been in touch with the 2 main volunteer fire departments that support Hopkins County. And without those 2 departments, Hopkins County couldn't survive. and they are all volunteer and they are structured training. We do not have that in Titus County. We do not have structured trained firefighters that are willing to make entry into buildings, mainly because of our age and the workability. Sugar Hill has one volunteer fire department, or one volunteer firefighter from 7 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And that's me. I'm 73 years old, and I'm not going into the structure. So without Mount Pleasant coming to aid us, we would have no insurance at all in Sugar Hill, based on the ISO rating. We have a 7 in Sugar Hill, but we have a 7 because of Mount Pleasant. And there are structure firefighters coming to aid us in structure fires. So you have two choices. Number one is start your own department, or decide what services you really want to have in the county, and then pay Mount Pleasant for those services. Starting your own department, if you got $5 million in your back pocket, yeah, you can start your own department, because that's about what it will cost. Just your startup. So what we're paying Mount Pleasant and what we're getting, in most cases, I think is a bargain. You can deny that. As Jimmy also said, that without Mount Pleasant coming out there, and what you just said, if you try to cut back on the services that Mount Pleasant extended to the county, everything goes by 2 and 2 out on surface firefighting. You have to have 2 structured trained firefighters enter your building, and you have to have 2 structured trained firefighters outside that building to protect the 2 that are going in. Otherwise, you can't send the 2 in. So our volunteers, we were supposed to be able to train ourselves to provide help to Mount Pleasant when they came out, but we just don't have it. We used to have a lot of structured trained firefighters in the volunteer force.
Did we have that as recently as 2013?
2013, I think even Sugar Hill had 7 trained structured firefighters. We don't have that anymore. The certification has lapsed, the people have gotten older, people have moved on, so we don't have it. Right now, Sugar Hill was on the verge of just falling quits, but luckily we had 2 volunteers just join Sugar Hill, and that gives us new life again. So it's a tough world out there. You can ask any of the departments standing behind me, can they mount a defense on a fire in the daytime? I doubt it.
What happens when your ISO rating changes? How can that affect a homeowner's insurance?
When we first got our ISO rating in Sugar Hill, my deduction was $500 the first year over what I was paying. And that was only with a 7. With Jerry, I think we got a 5, didn't we? 4. That is a great reduction to the people in the Titus area. You take that away, if you can get insurance by not having it, so you're going to pay out the numbers. So, and there's a lot of folks in the rural area that don't even have insurance. They can't afford it, period. And they're just hoping that nothing ever happens to them. And if it does, it's a total wipeout. But if you have some form of insurance, at least you can recover. So it's a numbers game, and we've all known that having Mount Pleasant come out to the rural area is an insurance policy. You pay for that insurance policy and hope you never need it. But if you need it, you're sure glad it's there.
What would it take to provide, you mentioned a figure of $5 million. I don't know where you've come up with that, but in order to provide a fire protection that was county only and to still maintain those kind of ISO ratings, what kind of department would we be looking at? What would we need, just generally speaking? Power and stations?
Well, first, you have to have a station. I think when we were looking at adding that third station, it was just for the building itself. You've got to have the equipment to put into that building. You've got to have the firefighters. You've got to have the administration to take care of their payroll needs. There's so many things that go into a startup building that I just don't think that you're looking at all those figures. Hopkins County did.
You mean you're not counting all the equipment we have now? What about every year? We spend $100 and something thousand just this last year on volunteer fire. Bought equipment, and we got equipment. You're just going to throw that away? You got to count that. You got to include that in what it would take to have $5 million. I don't know how in the world, but there's a lot of things that y'all do that I don't understand that you do.
So you're going to take equipment away from the volunteers to put into this?
Well, no. Maybe I'm mistaken, but the other counties that have a county fire department, they have a fire chief. They have some full-time firemen. The one that Wood County has no full-time firemen other than the chief. Hopkins County has 7 full-time firemen plus the volunteer fire department. He's got all of that, and we have them now. We spend pretty good money. Last year, $57,000 for a new truck here, and we get a truck regularly. So, you get to $25,000 each, and then we throw in always another $100,000 probably for equipment. You've got all that equipment. I don't know how you can come up with $5 million, but I guess if you do, you do. I don't figure it out, and I know my numbers are wrong. I've run my business for 28 years with wrong numbers, bad with numbers. I'm bad. Anyway, I think we're being absurd by saying $5 million.
And I've talked to Hopkins County the same as you have. How many paid firefighters do they have on shift during the daytime, 24-hour shift? 2. When they go to a structure fire in the county, they're depending on the volunteers to come and provide that other 2 for their 2 in, 2 out. When they have a firefighter call off duty, the chief then fills the role and goes out in that truck. You're still only got 2 people going out. When we get a structure fire right now, we have up to 7 coming from Mount Pleasant to help us out. As part of I think they only say that they're going to send 4, but I've never seen them send less than 6 or 7.
In Sulphur Springs, 7 employees, does that sound right?
I think they have 7 total.
Is that like a chief and then 3 shifts of 2?
A chief and then 2 for each shift is what I understood.
They're regular employees.
Yeah.
Fired by the county.
Yeah.
Then they still have the volunteer firemen. And they have some part-time.
But would you agree, what he's saying is, yes, you're right on those numbers, but there's no way that a chief and 2 firemen that are on duty is all the protection that county needs.
No, they have the volunteer fire department just like we do.
Well, not just like. Not just like.
Well,
and that's what he was explaining to you. They have, how would you, and I don't want to compare to unnecessarily, but you're saying that their volunteer firefighters have bigger departments, more experienced, more structure fires. What is the difference between theirs and ours?
They have 2 departments, one in the north and one in the south, that are large volunteer fire departments. They have several trained structure firefighters in those departments. And if they have a structure firefighter in the north department comes in and helps them out. So they have the situation taken care of, but they have the people, they have the volunteers. We don't have that.
What's the difference? Why can they have such a large volunteer fire department and we not?
I have no idea.
Well, what I've been told is that because of their proximity to the Metroplex, is they have more professional firefighters that, when they're at home in Hopkins County, are available to serve as volunteers, instead of, the 2 days that they spend in the Metroplex area, as a professional firefighter?
They do have that. I've been told that a lot of the Metroplex firefighters live in Hopkins County, and they do draw from that.
A lot of these professionals volunteer on their day off.
We don't have that here.
We just don't have it to draw.
We don't have any young people here that need to get arrested, they can get involved. Why?
Do we have in any of our volunteer departments any professional firefighters that work outside of Titus County?
The only one I can think of is Colby.
Kobe Eubanks is the only one, with Nortex is the only one that I can think of. He works for Longview. He's a paid firefighter in Longview. And he's on ours out there, and that's the only one that I can think of.
Well, I'm sure we'll go over this again when we visit with the chief and with the city manager. For the time being, why don't we discuss insurance? I know that was one of the things you had prepared us for, was to talk about some insurance for the volunteer departments.
We have been in discussion, and I thought we brought Marvin in here to explain the, it's called sickness and health policy. And then during the chief's meetings throughout the year, we've been talking about it on ways that we can take care of that and pay for it. And Isabel had brought up a point, and she was correct in that point, that yes, there is Texas Forest Service a grant available to pay for this policy. And we had talked about that. We had also talked about getting up our hose fund. Each department gets $1,000 a year for the hose fund and have that go forward. And several things were mentioned, and we were kicking it out there as to how we were going to pay for this so that the county wouldn't have to pay for it. And at the end result was we decided that we would be best served if we all filed the grant through the Forest Service and got the money back to cover the additional sickness and health policy, which we all have those funds available. The problem we are still taxed with is the fact that if we go out and buy a group policy through VFIS, we save a lot more money and we get a lot more benefits. The group policy, even for instance, what Cookville has, I think they have a $20,000 life and a $10,000 medical on their sickness and health policy. You can have one bout of cancer for a firefighter, and that $10,000 is ate up and it's gone. The policy we're looking at is a $50,000 life insurance and a $50,000 medical. What we talked about and what the chiefs had discussed is if we could get the county to make that initial payment for us on October 1, so we could get the group discount, and then each department go back and file the grant and say give us 90 days to file the grant and pay the county back. That way we take advantage of the group discount. We finally get the needed protection for the volunteers. It's without a doubt, in my mind and many others, that with this policy offering to the volunteers, which we never did before, we might be able to increase volunteers because they know now that they get hurt from government, whereas before they weren't.
Is that a work comp type policy? What is that?
We have a work comp that we all have right now through VFIS. What this sickness and health does is it extends the work comp. Work comp only covers about 75%. With this, it's kind of like Medicare and the Part D. If you have Medicare, you're going to have to pay out of your pocket, even though you have work comp. You add into Part D, and you're covered fully. And this is what this sickness and health does. And it covers so many other things, not only just sickness and health. If you have a event or a fundraiser, the chief of that department can say, all right, I'd like these 5 people to come in and help me serve tables and do lots of end jobs. The chief can, on a one-time basis, extend that policy coverage to these folks. So if they got hurt during that event, they would be covered also. Same goes for a fire. If you're out on a grass fire and you have a couple farmers show up with tractors and they want to help you with that large grass fire. Before, you couldn't allow them because of the responsibility. If you're in charge of that fire, if they got hurt, you're responsible for their injury. Now you can say, yes, I really need you with that disc out to cover the left lane, and I can cover you with insurance if you get hurt.
And right now, you don't have that kind of insurance.
So there's many advantages to this policy, and I have all the coverages here that I think I presented to you at the last time.
What would be that upfront cost in October?
Right now, the Cookville had excluded from it, but I think it's $7,600 for the six departments. And it's based on the number of people you have. Right now, we're looking at insuring, I believe it's 75 people off the 6 departments.
That's an annual premium. $7,000 would cover virtually all of the departments, maybe a little more if Cookville was in there. But you think you could get virtually all of that back with grants?
Yes. The only one that might be in limbo is Sugarhill, and only because we only have, I think, 8 volunteers. The Texas Forest Service would give you $175 per volunteer to cover your workers' comp and your sickness and health if you chose to go with it. Right now, the workers' comp averages around $500 to $600 a year for each department. And then you add on to $1,200 average for your sickness policy. You're looking at $1,800. So you take your 175 times 8, we've gone short of sugar. But we're more than willing to pay the difference just to have the insurance.
Sounds like a good deal if we're going to get a grant to pay it back.
Yeah, grant coverage is pretty much all of it. And I think Telco, for instance, has 20 on their roll. So you take the 20 times 175, they're more than able to cover the total. But that would be, and that's what we were looking to ask the Commissioners Court, if you would pay the upfront fee of the 76, and then we pay you back when we get you grant.
Let me ask a question. How do you control how many people are on this policy? Is it an unlimited number of people that can be on the policy?
The policy right now, they're quoting 75 individuals. So that would mean each department would have to come up with a list of who they want to insure. And then, again, you can add people to it on the fly on one lap event. But you think about it, I've been doing it for 18 years now, and we've not had we had one injury, and I believe that was Walter. He was taken care of rather vastly because he wasn't employed, and yet they gave him a check, I think a large check each month.
Good size, while he was out.
So he was well taken care of, but we haven't had a death. And right now, should a firefighter die of injuries on a fire, he gets, I think, $2,000 from state fire marshals for his death, and that's it. Telco has had, over the years, I think Randy told me, 3 firefighters since service has died. And the city of Telco, on one instance, wrote the family a check for $5,000 to help with their murder. But this policy here would, they would hand the spouse a check for $50,000 if the firefighter died. That's something we really need.
Is that something Cookeville would want to participate in, or is there a reason you're comfortable doing what you're doing?
Couple of points I'd like to make. One, Jerry pointed out that the Cookeville policy now isn't as good as the policy that they're proposing because our accidental death and dismemberment benefit is $20,000 and theirs is $50,000.
Yeah.
If you look at the cost of AD&D, it's pennies. That's the cheapest insurance you can buy. We have what Marvin Benson sold us back in 2011. So for us to increase our benefits of what they're offering the county will cost, I think, $6 per driver. And we probably won't do that. We would like to do that. I didn't know it was available until Jerry brought it up. The other thing, AD&D insurance is cheap because you only get it under certain limited circumstances. For instance, we had a firefighter, Harvey Spence, died of cancer several years ago. None of our insurance that we had since 2011 paid anything to his family because it wasn't a line of duty accident, it wasn't an accident at all. What I have looked at, what I thought Jerry was proposing at first, and it is available to us and covered by the same grant, is a group term life policy. And I got a quote. Marvin doesn't sell this, but he put me in touch with the DNIS person who does. We can add $20,000 of life insurance coverage to our plan now and have it covered by the same $175 per person grant that we're getting now. And that benefit will pay $20,000 to a family of the firefighter, regardless whether it's natural causes, accident, or whatever. Now, I'm grateful to Jerry for making us aware that that benefit is available. And so we're going to add that. I've been in touch with the guy when our policy comes up for renewal in October. We're going to add that to us. And still, it costs us no money. And our upfront cost has not been that much every year. We've been able to budget. I think Tom mentioned one of the times earlier that the fire department should be able to budget before it asks for a grant. And we've been able to do that every year. Grant would have covered it, and now we'd like to add this additional benefit. So I'm thankful to Jerry for pointing that out. And when we first heard of it, we didn't see any reason why a taxpayer should be paying for something that the Texas Forest Service is going to pay for. Now, if it's a fact of cash flow that the other fire departments don't have the money to come up with up front, I totally understand that. I do know that group discounts are sometimes significant. I don't know how much the group discount for putting Cookeville in the group, but this way to add this additional benefit that y'all are talking about, I think I think, and the conversations we've had with our membership is that we seem to be just fine. Now, 42-page form, we're going to have to get reimbursed. So, I mean, I'm capable of doing that on my paperwork.
So at this point, you might be interested in joining that group. You might be interested in just staying on your own.
If there's a significant reduction in premium because we can join that group,
Okay.
sure, we'll look at it.
Okay. Okay. All right.
We just see the reason that taxpayers, we're all taxpayers. We're firefighters, but we're also taxpayers. So to pay for something out of the taxpayer's pocket that we know and have experience with, have a copy of the check we got from, who was Texas Forest Service. Sorry, I had knee surgery in my brain, so good positive and all the rest. I've got a copy of the check right here we got from Texas Forest Service. The work's supposed to go smoothly, and we've been able to provide some benefit. I just learned this, why didn't you sell this to all the other fire departments back in 2011 when you sold it to us and we doesn't know? So I'm glad that everybody's getting it, because it is a nice benefit for the volunteer.
Okay. Commissioners, would y'all be willing to front that cost to them, knowing that you'll get back theoretically? I guess we'll know after the first year if we're truly getting it back.
The only problem I see, and that's something you might consider, is getting the money back. And we're all human, and if we know there's a deadline, we'll be more apt to pay you back. If there is no deadline, we're human, and we pay them in June and July.
Well, here's an option, so they can get their money back in the month of January.
That was the thing, that you set a deadline and you don't have your money back, and if Sugar Hill doesn't pay you back in 90 days.
So you're saying the risk is just we forget to make the request? It's not that this is in doubt as far as whether it's reimbursable through that grant?
The money's there, it's available to us. It's just us getting the money back to you, and I would think if you're going to pay that upfront for us, you want to say, all right, you need to pay us back by a certain period. And just to point out, Mike, I had talked to Mike about this. Mike also has the ADD, and their department, when they first formed, decided to go ahead and do that. Texas Forest Service did pay them back for the total cost. But what I did find out is the policy you have, again, is different from the group policy that we can provide. And I told Mike that on the group policy, there's more benefits that we can get his department.
But that's been a whole lot higher for a firefighter than what we're going to do with this.
So what Marvin is working toward also is getting their policy in with the group policy and making sure that the coverage doesn't lapse.
Okay. All right. That would be reasonable to me if we just would say that we'll get, if we don't get that reimbursement back, then it doesn't sound like the whole annual premium's but about $1,000 per station based on that $7,000.
Yeah, I think Marvin will break it out as to what each department will owe because Delco has 20 where I have 8.
Okay, so might be 1,500, 500, something like that. So at the end of the year, we see who's done what they're supposed to and get the grant money back and who hasn't. And we could always, like you said, take it out of the monthly expense. Would y'all be willing to front this?
Yeah, I think it's good.
I have a question. Do you get dividends back from the mortgage?
You okay with that?
No.
Don't want to do it?
No, I don't want to do it.
How come?
Because I don't believe you're going to get a policy without a number of people to do it. You can't just get a blanket policy and then have 50 people eligible or 10 people.
Okay.
There's a number.
He doesn't believe that we can get this kind of coverage. You believe we can?
I
Okay.
have the policy right here. And then the quote. The quote that Marvin just gave me is good through October 10th. And it's, again, it doesn't have Cookville on it because we weren't sure Cookville was going to go along with it, but it won't raise the premium that much more.
To just put what, more people on it? What if we get more people? If we get more volunteer firemen, we won't have a bigger premium?
Well, this is a premium based off, right now it's based off 75. The original premium we had was based off 100, that was considered Cookville. But right now, if 10 people join Sugar Hill tomorrow, after we instate the policy, nothing happens on this policy until the renewal time.
Annual renewal? Annual renewal?
Annual renewal. So the annual renewal, Marvin would come back to us and say, all right, how many people are we insuring this year? And if it's more, yes, the premium would go up. But still, what we get back from the Forest Service is more than covered.
Okay.
The nice thing about this, bear in mind, is with workman's comp doesn't cover heart attacks and cancer. Period. They're starting to, and once they start to, our workman's comp policy is going to go up. The other thing that I was just advised by Marvin is this policy that we're looking at will also cover COVID.
Who's Marvin?
He's our representative for VFIs.
From who?
VFIS, that's the insurance company that they deal with on their fire policies.
Volunteer fire insurance services.
So this policy will also cover cancer and cover heart attacks, and that's the two major causes of death for firefighters.
Okay.
Does that cover them if they're fighting a fire, or they just have a heart attack while they're at night sleeping?
If you're within 24 hours of that incident, in other words, you go out on a fire, you go back home, you have a heart attack within 24 hours.
But that's your comp policy.
But not this
The
policy.
50,000 life and the 50,000 hospitalization, that doesn't have to be on-the-job injuries or death, or does it?
I have to check on that. I think we're covered there, but
It's doubling benefits, it's called line of duty, you get doubling benefits if you die.
But if they're riding their motorcycle on their day off and they get hurt, does that policy still cover? It certainly covers death. I assume would it cover hospitalization as well?
Death only if it's by accident.
Okay. Okay.
that's what I read.
No, it's doubling line of duty death. Get additional.
They die of natural causes 3 days after their last shift. It doesn't pay.
I think it's the difference in how much it pays.
Okay.
It still pays back.
But the main thing we're trying to accomplish here is to cover guys that are firefighters while they're working. Okay. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. If we add football to this, we have an estimated amount of what that might be. Our premium right now is $1,800 a year, and that covers the accident, sickness, and the workers' comp. So what we're talking about adding is the group term life, $20,000 per man, and that, I think the premium on that was $2,000. All of it together comes in, I've got my numbers, all of it together comes in less than $175.
Could we, within the next month, get you all to talk and see what we could get as a firm quote for everybody if you decide to do that? And then let's say it's $9,000. And then why don't we budget a revenue item in there to cover 70% of that?
The grant pays 100%.
Well, but like he was saying, just in case somebody didn't pay, let's go with maybe for now $9,000 and $7,500 as a revenue coming from the grant reimbursements.
One more thing. I think that it's a good idea for us to designate a time, whether it's 90 days, 120 days, 180 days. But I really don't like the idea of us commingling that and maybe not paying the monthly amount. It just makes it hard.
Let's cover an agreement like that at a later time. We're going to want to approve that in Commissioners Court anyway, but for rough budgeting plans right now, let's go with that. But you're right, we will have some kind of agreement in writing that stipulates how we will get reimbursed there and what happens if not. Yes, ma'am.
Two more things I wanted to clarify. Jerry was mentioning that people come up for renewal and get added to the roster once a year. The way that Marvin Vincent explained that to me is we send in a roster once a year. They use that to recalculate the premium. During the year, as we add people, if someone we just added yesterday is a victim and is entitled to some benefits, the way we determine if he's covered or not is we go back to the minutes of our meeting. And if he has been voted in as a full member on the minutes of the meeting, then he is covered for full benefits, even though we only adjust the premium once a year.
Okay.
The other thing, we have one more point that football would like to ask, please, for the $1,000 hose fund.
Okay.
And there's a paragraph here that our Chief Royce Camp would like to read, if that's okay.
We agree that the $1,000 post fund has become obsolete. We can be better spent the equipment fund to reimburse the VFDs for equipment used throughout the year. As an example, we encounter situations, sometimes body armor will be helpful to us. This is a need that is not covered with other grants at this time, and we request that the Commissioners repurpose this $1,000 grant budget to kind of allow this and other fire equipment purchases. We would submit the receipts as we do with grants. I'm not saying we should exclude hoses from that. I mean, every fire department can be different. I know, like right now, Cookville, we got hoses stacked up everywhere. Whereas Jerry at Sugarfield, we need them, but it would just be in our opinion, more helpful if we could reallocate some of that money towards other equipment. Rather than just strictly hoses.
I don't know why you just, the hose account, just make equipment, change it to equipment, and you can buy what you need out of that account. What is it, $1,000 a year?
Yes. Well, I mean, that's a relatively insignificant. I think what that has done for us in the past, as I remember those discussions, is it guarantees that, you know, we're getting new hoses on a regular basis. I think I would rather leave that as an individual as-needed request throughout the year. Come to us midpoint and just say, hey, you know, we'd like to draw on our $1,000, but this is our justification for spending it this way rather than on hoses this year, and let us address that. I don't want to just make a blanket change to where we lose whatever was the original rationale for creating this hose fund, where we knew that we were getting replacement hoses on a regular basis. But I don't know that there'd be any reason why, under certain circumstances, you couldn't ask the court and them say, yes, you can use this $1,000 for another purpose.
If we don't spend it on the insurance, that was our point, was if we keep that in reserve for other equipment needs.
Well, again, we don't have a lot of earmarks on the money that we give you. I mean, that's kind of the way it works. We're giving you this amount of money, and we trust you to spend it, you know, in the way that's best. We do have that hose fund there that was created, obviously, for a reason. I don't know what all those reasons were, but...
He said he didn't think he had hose at the airport. We just started, so we need hoses. I mean, it's...
Yeah. So you'll probably use every bit of your $1,000. All right. Is there anything else on anybody's budget that you would like to discuss? Anybody that's here in the room? We do need to wrap up.
This, I was told that he didn't have to come up here.
If you'll come up here and grab a mic.
This is a trial this year to see Russia.
Okay. Yeah, have a seat there so we can get this on our recorder. Is everybody in agreement with that?
Mike, what's yours? You got your truck? So you got it on your budget here to get a truck. Is that what you added in here?
Well, I wanted to ask, Sarah put that on there, but that was okay this year. Yeah. But does it have to go on the budget if it's after October before we get it? Or is that money gonna be there regardless? I mean, we've been told it's gonna be there, I mean, we no problem.
What's the situation that's causing the timing difference?
Well, COVID, and,
They can't get the truck.
Your inability to get the truck.
Yes, and I got texted while we were here earlier that it has been put in the plan to be built next week.
Okay. The answer is yes. Through no fault of your own, I mean, the money's going to be there.
Well, that's what I asked.
Okay.
I don't want to put that in the budget if it goes hard.
You don't have to.
Barbara, how do you want to handle that in the
We
event
already
that we
had
don't
to.
have a firm billable truck?
We need to leave it in the budget. So
Okay, so we'll show it in
Because
two
we didn't
different
use it this year.
departments.
Okay, so we ain't got to turn a receipt in. Okay.
And then
May not get it in time. Yeah.
The part from the county to bring this truck out, does it have to be in next year's budget if it's after October?
That's just a loan.
Okay.
Yeah, you can come at any time for that.
Okay.
Ask.
Yeah, so no, I wouldn't put that in the budget.
You can, but
So now we're thinking Tri-Lakes gets a truck this year. That's what we're thinking. Yeah, me and you talking.
I've already went and got 2 quotes.
Yeah.
Got one on the Ford, one on the Dodge. The Ford was $32,925, and the Dodge was $34,107.
Okay.
There's $1,000 difference in the 2 trucks. Talked to my people last night, they'd like to have the Dodge. It's okay with the county.
Well, why don't we'll deal with those kind of specifics later on when the time comes, but as far as what we're trying to do is make sure we've got enough money budgeted there. We had 36,000, what did we budget this year? 36? Let's be sure.
The Dodge was what, how much?
Barbara, let's be sure we retain that 36, and let's just go ahead and put another 36 in here just in case any pricing were to change. Hopefully it won't. We don't have to spend as much, but let's just put that same line item in both these departments.
All I got.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
You want to talk about the grant that you might get this year on that other truck, just in case? Could happen this year.
The truck will turn into the county, you know, we get a truck turning one in. I looked at it last night, it's 2000, I mean, it's a 1999, it's got 11,000 miles. Service twice a year, new tires, truck's in good shape. If the bed is stay on it, we'll just take off the lights, the ski in it, pump, and then turn it into the county. Whoever gets that truck.
Is that just a one-ton pickup truck? What is it?
Do with it, bring home a flatbed on it.
Just be a cabinet chassis if they take their skid unit out.
We've done that before.
When they return it back in.
bed, so it'll have flatbed on it.
Okay.
Anyway, we serviced it twice a year, so it's in real good shape. We are in on a 2014, I submitted to the Texas Forestry Service a grant for a small brush truck, which is, I don't think it's $100,000 for it. When we looked back this year, we was number 16 on the list. Right now, the Forestry Service, they're not doing no grants because of the virus. Last I heard, it might be next year before they can start issuing out any more trucks. So 10%, it would be our cost on the truck. At that time, when we do receive the grant, we'd like for the county to help us out on that 10,000. And then reimbursement on that is would be turned in a 2013 model truck to the county. That'd be our next year one, 2013 four-wheel drive.
What I'd like for you to do, and Barbara, in the past, we have not budgeted for these until the time came up, so we're not going to put that in the budget. You've told us about that, but once you know a little bit more about that grant, let's, as it looks like it's favorable and you may get it, we'll deal with it at that time, but we're not going to put that 10% in the budget. Yeah, well, I think our history shows you can count on us to come up, when there's 10% needed.
No, I got them here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Firefighters, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. Thank you for what you do for us. And let us know on the insurance so we can plug in those figures, okay? Come on in, Shane. Okay, running a little bit late. We'll move on into John Cobert and Shane Wynn. Shane is, as most of you all know, is head of our adult probation department. And John Coburn and Shane Wynn share some monies here, and I'll let Mr. Coburn refresh you on how that kind of works. If you'll pull that mic over there to whoever's talking, just so we can get a better recording.
Judge, as far as sharing monies, we have a pretrial intervention fund, which I will familiar with, that allows people with no criminal history to participate in this program. And it's a probation program, usually a year long, and it allows these individuals to keep criminal convictions off the record. Is what the purpose of the program is. Well, the money from that program comes directly to my office for purposes to be used between the probation office and my office, and according to how the office is. So that's where the money.
At $500 per case, typically. It's just an alternative revenue source, and dependent upon how Mr. Coburn treats a particular case. And instead of the fines, and probation still gets fees on those at the rate of $60 a month, and these are typically 1 year pretrial, 1 year programs where that diversion would be paid to probation department at $60 a month, and then Mr. Coburn's office gets $500 flat fee for that case, as opposed to fees, just general fines going to the county there. And so that's a budgetary revenue item. That, how do you all propose we split that this year, and what is your projection for the upcoming year?
Well, it's hard to project. I'm hoping we'll be getting that back on track with the court getting back hopefully normal next couple of months. So hopefully that will start becoming more in line with the traditional amounts that's been coming in. I'm not sure, Shane, you're asking for anything in particular this year out of it?
Just our general budget is usually $1,000 per child murders. I think they usually put about $5,000 in there. Just in case we need to use for review.
Right.
I think that was it.
And that next line of me is, there'll be no changes to that.
And then, due to COVID and not having to go around, we come off of that, depending on you learn the previous.
Right. And we can work that out between the two judge.
$15,000 is what we had budgeted in 2020. I'm sure we'll fall well behind on that. What do you think would be fair for this upcoming year?
As far as what I estimate we'll bring in?
Yeah, in other words, what should we budget?
I would say 10, we'd be safe.
Okay.
Unless Mark has a better suggestion.
Year to date, that's taking in $9,500. So if we budget 10.
Well, but we haven't collected a dollar since
Right.
Well, actually,
April. I guess.
That's not exact. Your Honor, Judge, one thing we're doing differently, though, is that is because of COVID and the lack of court, we've been creative and we've been extending this to individuals and going through that program regardless. They can come in and just do it through my office. So it's nice that we have the program because we've been able to move cases that way. And so we'll continue to do that regardless if COVID hasn't,
But how many have we done since April?
We've done quite a few. I mean, you did 6 yesterday. We've done quite a few. We've been moving as best we can. You signed off on 6 of them yesterday.
Yeah, that's the first ones I've seen since March, April. But I mean, still, I'm glad that we're making progress.
I know we have a whole lot of problems since then.
So we may come close to what our budget was by the end of the year.
We could. And I have a lot, like I said, I have a whole lot of them lawyers that are getting the clients to fill out the proper forms, the budget reference and such. So the other pretrial fund, I don't know as much about that. I haven't talked to the JPs, but the other pretrial fund that we use for the Paul Lindsay maintains for me, which is the individuals with CDL license. That's the other fund. What happens is, if they have a CDL license, it can greatly affect a ticket in their personal vehicles, for example. It can greatly affect their points and their ability to maintain their job. And so we allow them to do a similar program. They're not on a year probation or anything of that nature, but they pay a higher fee in order to it's considered pre-trial. And Barbara differentiates those numbers. There's 2 different accounts for that. And I'm not exactly sure that Paul's doing the best we can with that, but I'm not exactly sure where that stands. I'd say, what would be
Revenue so far this year has been $4,800.
versus, we did 20,000. Yeah, 20,000 last year.
23 last year.
23, I think, 25. So that's a significant drop off. And I'm not sure, that's, a lot of that's out of my control. That has to do with the EPS, and to do with the weigh station. There's a lot of factors involved in that.
I say that we keep these numbers the same for the upcoming year. I think you're going to have some pent-up demand that's going to flow in when we start getting court back rolling. And I don't see any reason why we won't be back at our same levels the rest of the year. So if y'all are okay with that, let's just keep it the same. What'd you do to your arm?
Tore my bicep and broke everything.
Ooh. Sorry.
The way we're doing it now, since we're not having court, free job, urgent cases, I think we can do it.
Okay. All right. Anything else we need to talk about?
The only other issue, Judge, is you're aware of this when, and this is just something I'm thinking I'm aware of, and I know several of you already know this. When Esther, my former chief paralegal, took another job, my part-time person has been filling in for her, and I'm going to promote her into that position. She's done a good job, so I'm going to promote her into that position. And what I did was, because I didn't have a part-time person, I promoted Jessica to another position, and she took over those part-time duties. So what I plan on doing is just moving some money within the line item for salaries to not use the entire budgeted amount for part-time salaries. I'm going to move $4,000 approximately over to Jessica, and I'm not going to, that's what's been doing.
Doesn't affect your overall budget, but you're going to just reallocate in there? Okay.
But, like I said, I probably will not hire like somebody else. Jessica's doing a good job of keeping everything up. So that 13,000 is all we use.
Okay.
We'll just leave it the same, but I don't just
okay.
Just for it. But that's the only change.
All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, welcome, Callie and Luann. If y'all will both sit down there at the table in case we need to swap that mic out. But whoever's going to talk, if we can get the mic in front of you for starters. Sergeant Roney, how are you?
Good. How y'all doing this morning?
Fine,
Good.
thank you.
Good.
Okay, who's going to talk first? All right.
Our budget proposal for this year was to remain both of our accounts the same, with the exception that if there's any county raises for salaries that would take place.
Okay. How did you, last year we talked about some additional monies for going to shows and stuff like that. How did that impact you this year in view of the fact that we didn't do that?
That's been extremely beneficial. We've gotten to go several different places, to the State Fair of Texas, the Houston Livestock Show, East Texas State Fair, and then around March, a lot of things started getting canceled. Luckily, we were actually at the Houston Livestock Show, did the Plant ID contest, and Cammie got to come back with the big Houston Rosette ribbon, and then the very next week it was canceled. So we will have a little bit left over in that account probably just due to all of the cancellations from COVID. So.
Okay. All right, keeping the budget the same. Anything else to discuss?
I don't have anything.
How's your husband doing?
How do y'all do your auto allowance? Is that each person gets so much money in that auto allowance every year, or you do by mileage? So it's depending on who you are, what?
No, our traveling seminar, she travels.
Yeah, you turn that in. I see that. But then you got auto allowance up to $13,000. What do you turn it in by mileage?
No.
You just get a $6,000 a year or something?
Right.
So much a month, every month? You get so much a month?
It's a month. But yes, we get a
That's
monthly.
split evenly. that month.
Right, split evenly. Like some months like lately, our job has changed a little bit this since March. Our agency is working with the governor, and so we're doing anywhere from contact tracing, distributing PPEs. There's some of us that have been, the input of the testing. So it's kind of changed a little bit.
Yeah. To me, I would like to see that auto allowance turn in a driving, for using your car driving at the 57.5 cents a mile, whatever they come out with next year. I'd like to change that to that, but as far as in the budget, what you'd allow, would you just keep it at 13,000, make sure you don't go over it, at a cap it at that, or I'm thinking it would probably be less than 13,000 if you do it per mile, because it is a reimbursement for your vehicle expense and your gas, and that's the way I look at it. So.
Well, I agree. And I would like to ask some questions. Since you are all state employees, and I noticed this letter, you asked for an increase. On Google, it says the county agent makes $74,000 a year average salary. And I don't know what the salary is, but anyway, and we supplement your salary. I don't know how they come up with $20,160. The county pays you a salary. In addition to your pay, you are state employees, right?
We're state, federal, and county employees. Titus County, like some other counties, pay minimum. Some counties pay, they get a raise on the amount that the county pays as county employees. We have never had that. So that's where some of the counties, other agents get more. It's because the county pays more.
Some of them get less.
No,
Well, I mean, the county pays less. I don't know about the state. Your state changes? Your state pay changes as the county changes?
no.
The state salary is the same, right? It doesn't change. Or does it?
The county has never changed.
Well, the county
He's asking the level of the state pay, does that vary by county? Or do all counties
It varies by our education, it varies by more of a merit system, but it has nothing to do with our county pay.
Yeah, what you get, your state pay is based on certain criteria, so what somebody gets in one county may be different from the state pay in another county.
Correct.
And we have a level system. You start out as a level 1 county agent, and after so many years, you can apply for a promotion. Once you've done a lot in your county and done a lot at the state level, then you can apply for promotions, and the state pay increases then.
But then
If you have a master's degree, if you get a PhD, it increases a little bit too. So.
But then the county pay is not tied to a percentage of the state pay or anything like that. It's totally up to the county.
Totally up to the county.
And so the county agent salaries of $20,160 that's on here is a supplement that the county adds to your state pay.
What do you know what your state?
Is that right? Is that right?
Or is that the minimum we have to pay to have a county agent? If we don't pay it, we don't get anything.
Pays the minimum. Yes.
But it's over and above your state pay. You get pay from two sources, the state and from the county.
Correct.
Okay.
not, the state pays a bigger portion of that.
Oh, yeah.
That wasn't the question. It's on top of what, we don't see the state numbers in our budget. That's an element of your pay that you get from the state. What we see on our budget is the amount that the county pays
Correct.
in addition to your state pay.
Correct.
Okay? And that $20,000 figure is between two of you.
Correct.
And then you've got a secretary on there that the county pays 100% of. Okay. Did that answer you?
Yeah, I'd like to know, though, why we do, I don't know why we supplement their pay and how it come about. Is the pay so low for the county agents, or is it that 74,000 average for the state era, or you think
I
it?
will say, I do not pay 74,000.
What the state salary, not the county, not good.
Total, I don't pay 74,000.
Well, you know, our highest paid people, salaried people that are elected, been running for election, only make about 55, 60,000 a year total.
I know the starting salary and extension is $41,000, if that helps, and that's included with the county pay portion. So,
I guess
That's your state plus county.
yes.
well, I didn't
That's
hear
the
that.
starting-
About 41,000 combination state plus county.
41.
Well, I guess that's one of those questions, you know, why do we pay anything that we deem as a state responsibility? I don't know, I guess we got to ask the state that, but I think that there's absolutely some value provided for our county with our county agents, and for us to be contributing $10,000 per doesn't seem unreasonable. Then we've got a secretary making a total of 3 employees there. Is your insurance is provided by the state, right?
Correct.
And that's why we only have one person here for hospital insurance. And would that be the same for the retirement as well?
All of our retirement.
Okay. So all we do, Al, is add a contribution for their salaries, which is that $20,160. The rest of those taxes and insurance is related to the secretary.
Judge Lee, it is my understanding that we do pay FICA and Medicare on 20,000.
Correct, yes.
Yes, I did make that clear. Mr. Fitch, what are you thinking you want to do here? Do you want to implement this year? Do you want to?
I'd like to see it implemented because it is a vehicle reimbursement. I mean, it's not a flat fee. And for us to show justification like we're supposed to, we're allowed 57.5 cents a mile. I think what's good for the goose, good for the gander. And I'm just not sure how many miles y'all drive total. You know, it may turn out being 13,000. But for this year, I'd recommend just leave the 13,000 in there as the budget that will cover, and y'all turn in your mileage and see what it adds up. Next year, we may adjust it down to 10,000.
If it exceeds it, are you prepared to pay the
Do we
additional?
do it now if it exceeds it?
Sir?
Does it just taps out at 13,000 now, doesn't it?
Well, that's just a fixed amount
Up
per month.
to a cap of 13,000. Yeah, not
So
to
if they
exceed
go
13.
over that, you're saying we're not going to pay you?
That's right. I mean,
So that
they may do it now. I mean, all they're going to get is 13,000. So if they can buy more than that or
Is
more
that-
wear and tear at y'all's
Which
deal.
we do.
just in-county travel or out-of-county travel to Houston, San Antonio, all those places that we do as a
Well, you do that on your travel and seminar travel.
We don't.
You don't turn in the extra travel? Okay.
That's-
Yeah, I'd count it all then. Yeah.
A couple of years ago, I spoke to Mr. Ripley, the guy that's in charge of that, and I asked, did y'all got reimbursed when you went to seminars, required training? And he said, yes, turn in a mile. I noticed y'all turn into the county, but he said they pay any required travel, and they paid just like we do, the county does. Mileage, hotel bill, meals, the whole works. and I noticed that you still turn it into the county, but he says they pay for it. The guy that's Dr. Ripley or whatever his name is told me that a couple of years ago.
Well, for example, our state conference, which is next week, for my professional organization, I'm choosing not to go because just of our current situation, I'm choosing not to go. It's in Amarillo. It's not required, but it is highly recommended. You know, this year it's, I think, they're excusing it with understanding. So that alone would have been, it's in Amarillo, 4 days, so that would have been.
They recommend it, but he won't pay that.
When you go, do you turn in a mileage to the state?
No.
And then you count your...
There are certain, like I do a health summit, and that particular one, a grant pays for it, so they require, it's what's called required.
Yeah, we got some of those. If it pays back, then I don't turn in the mileage. Yeah, you won't be double dipping. That's what as long as there's no double dipping, it's like me going to a conference, turning in my mileage, and then counting my mileage for the month on my log. It's double dipping. As long as there's none of that, let's turn in a mileage log for your...
The only thing the state has paid for on my part was, I just started a year and a half ago. They did pay for my onboarding, the mileage. That's the only thing the state has paid for.
What is onboarding?
Like training for new agents so that they know, what to do in their new role, their new jobs.
When are you allowed to turn in mileage and get reimbursed by the state? Under what circumstances?
That's the only circumstance I've gotten reimbursed for. So.
You're not even eligible to claim it.
No.
So what he's saying doesn't sound right?
There are some things that we just haven't been required to go to.
We have some things too, and I've been to them, and you just don't turn in the mileage. They pay us back. If it's 300 miles or whatever, that's part of the deal. We'll pay up to 300 miles or something. I don't have to turn in the mileage for it. They pay it,
Okay, so again, under what type of things occur where you can turn in your mileage and be reimbursed by the state?
Maybe the state has a grant to put on a conference.
Okay, but you're told up front, you may claim mileage, otherwise you don't.
They give us all the mileage that when we register, they give us, all the information.
Okay. That's not something that you decide, am I going to claim it this time or not claim it? You may or may not get it. So, okay, so it would be reasonable in those circumstances, Fitch, if they didn't claim that as part of their county mileage, right? When they're being paid by the state, but otherwise, wherever they go out of town or in town, working on the job, they can claim their mileage.
Sure, John.
Okay.
Never mind. IRS to and from work, from your house to work, you can't claim that.
Well, that's defined by our policies. Okay, what do y'all think about this?
I agree with it.
All right, well, that will become an additional burden for you, just like it has for all of us sitting up here, but it is something that this court, I think, has expressed in the past and their intentions to move in that direction. So let's, like Fitch is suggesting, let's keep that allowance the same and see how it goes in the future. Fair enough? Anything else, ladies?
I don't have anything else.
And how's your husband?
He's doing great.
Okay, good. All right, I'm going to write these notes down here, and thank you all for coming in.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Okay, Barbara, I'm going to put will convert to pay per mile instead of flat fee currently paid, will not claim conference monies paid by state when requesting county reimbursement. We're going to leave at 13,000 and reevaluate next year.
So we're going to limit that to 13,000?
And then, of course, that could always be brought up and discussed, I suppose, at a later time, but that's the intention right now, and then we'll see what their actuals end up in determining how to handle that in the future if we need to increase or decrease that. All right, Sergeant, we're a little behind, but thanks for joining us.
Good, Commissioners, everybody.
Tell us what does business look like up there at your office these days?
It's still pretty busy right now.
Well, are y'all fully open, or is it a modified
Kind
open?
of modified, still modified.
And how does that work?
Driving outside, what we're going to do, they taking people by appointments only. So you can go online, you make your appointment, then show up on your appointment time. They'll take care of you. But they're trying to encourage everybody to pretty much do everything online if they can. You know, with the Real ID Act and all that, most people got to come in and bring some documentation. So it's still taking.
And most of that business is just the routine replacement of a driver's license?
Yes.
Does it also include kids taking driving tests? And
They got to make an appointment for the kids coming in and drive the test, and they are testing them.
Okay. All right.
Sure.
Has that been okay? Are there people
So far,
yelling and screaming?
So far it has been. It's been going pretty good, and people are coming in, and you know, people like showing up and not having an appointment, but you know, they trying to do this new process and keeping a lot of people out of office at this time. So,
Do you turn the people away that don't have an appointment and say, sorry, you got to sign up?
they do.
Okay. All right.
And all they have to do is just go back and make an appointment, and they come back to an appointment time.
Okay, thank you.
Get the business taken care of.
All right, no changes requested on the above highway patrol budget for 2021.
No, sir. Everything's good on our budget, and appreciate what y'all do for us.
Are you still staffed with the same number of folks up there?
Yes.
Pretty well. State doesn't have you out on any watching the border much these days?
Well, you know, we went to the border, Louisiana, Texas border, and then we went to the airport there in Dallas, DFW, and we had some people down in Richmond. So we have been different places, and then recently been in Dallas on protests and stuff like that. So,
most of that behind us now?
Pretty much it is.
All right, any questions for Sergeant?
How many other counties usually pay for an employee for y'all's offices around the country? What do you see that? Is that
it's pretty popular.
It's popular. So why did that ever get started? What is the purpose of that?
I'm not sure.
Just because we wanted the office here or something, or just?
I'm not sure.
Who knows? It is strange, isn't it?
I don't know the background of it.
Yeah.
But what I do know is back in the early days, the county and the state had a relationship where they were providing service to the state to file things and get things done. The sergeant and troops out of the office where they could work the counties. And that's why they came up with that.
What if counties don't have the county pay for their secretary? What do they do? They just do it themselves, or just have to get the state to pay for it?
Well, some do it themselves, and some have state secretaries, depending on what office it is.
I'm just very questionable about it. I mean, I just always wondered about it. All right.
Who does that county clerk furnish report to?
Sir?
The county clerk that the county pays for, the clerk that you have down there pays for.
Your secretary.
Who she report to?
Yeah, who does she work for?
She worked for the county.
Yeah, I know, but who does she work for in your office?
Oh, she worked for myself, the Highway Patrol Division, and all also licensed CB from the Criminal Vehicle Enforcement Division, which is myself and Sergeant Cruz.
We've all been at a few meetings over the past year to discuss improvements at the weigh station. And I think, as I understand it, we're kind of at a standstill until we find some money. But it became apparent that, with the expense that was going to be needed out there, somewhere upwards of $6-7 million, didn't sound like TxDOT had those kind of funds or anywhere close to it that they were willing, I won't say not willing, that they were able to allocate towards a project like that. In my last conversation with Major Nordlow, we told him what the court here had voted on, and that was, right now the county can't make any significant investment in that. Hopefully we find some state funds if the state feels like that's an important deal to have here. We feel like it ought to be the state coming up with most of that money, but perhaps this court will reconsider that. If we could put up a smaller portion of that, I think that we could justify that in additional fees collected, but the bulk of that's going to have to come from the state of the feds.
Have you heard any monies that DPS is willing, anything new on it, other than that equipment they were going to buy? Just still the same deal?
Well, I'm not familiar with it. Pretty much in Daniel Crooks.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, they're just going to buy some equipment, and I've checked everywhere, and they're like, there's money in TxDOT, and we'll check on it, and never hear back, so. Okay.
All right, if there's nothing else, we'll let Sergeant Roney get back to business. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Keep safe. Thank you, Sergeant.
Constable Barrett. Good morning.
All right.
Good deal.
Ray.
You had any new surgeries in the last year?
No, not last year. I still gotta have one, but I'm waiting on all this thing to settle down before I try to have it done.
As long as you're distant socially from Ray there. I do have masks if you're not. No, you got yours too. All right. Start with you.
Well, I didn't change anything this year on the budget as far as asking for anything additional than what it was last year. I really don't have anything other than any questions I might have for me.
Well, I'm sure this will be the year that you get talked to about auto allowance. That's. I know it. So I'll let Fitch lead that conversation.
Well, you heard what we said. What's good for the goose, good for the gander. So I think it's time that we go to the 57.5 mileage on your personal vehicles for your work use and everything.
What's the reason behind that thing?
That is showing justification of what we're spending. It's showing this is where this money is going. We're not paying too much. Maybe we're not paying enough. So, do you feel?
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't have a problem with that if the court would do what they did with the sheriff about 3 or 4 years ago, where they rolled his money, his car allowance money into his salary, and gave him a car to drive. One county over west of us, Franklin County, has paid their constables, this Powell County does 51-1.
Mm-hmm.
And then they give them a car.
That is part two of this situation. So as far as your salary, I want to look into that.
Back to that,
Yeah.
whenever I was appointed 6 years ago, the job that I had before I came here, I took a $10,000 a year pay cut. Take this job. And the reason I did that, the vehicle allowance was part of it, and then also, I did the mental health, I could do the mental health. So I would have never taken this job. It was that kind of pay cut to come do this, if that kind of stuff wasn't going to be there. I mean, it's like,
I mean, I took a pay cut to come be a commissioner. I mean, but I won't do
But you
it.
knew it up front.
I don't have a business on the side.
This is our career.
But you knew
it. We're not just that you were elected paycheck.
Yeah, yeah. Well, commissioners used to get this same thing too, and they took it away. You know, somebody, we're trying to justify things.
When I first started 20,
But that don't mean I'm not going to change, we're not going to change salaries. So
Hey,
you're not
let's
through
go,
with me.
let's go one at a time here.
Yeah, go ahead.
when I
This
started
is,
29 years ago, there was about a $12,000 difference in the constable's salary and the commissioner's salary. Can I ask what a commissioner's salary is?
52, 53, 4.
So I'm at 44, so that's about the same.
Mm-hmm.
It was the same with the sheriff. The commissioners made about 12,000 more. The sheriff made about 10,000 more. And I asked the sheriff's salary.
He makes more than that.
70, 71.
It's in here.
As constables, we
Yeah.
get looked at as just elected official administrators, but we're law enforcement. Part of our duty is patrolling, answering calls, we back up all these others. Just in the last year, by being proactive, not sitting in office, I'm an officer first. I physically arrested a man for attempting to kill somebody in Tampa. I found him, pulled him over, made him arrested. A few months ago, with the man at the hospital, I got out with the police department, helped search for him, I found a guy on the back road and I arrested him. So we're law enforcement. We're not just elected officials that sit around the office and sit in court. We're patrolling, we're supporting these other agencies, and our salary is basically a rookie deputy salary. I got 35 years experience, raised out of 15 or 20. This is my last term. I told y'all this last year. If you want good people to run for this job, or you're going to have to get the salary up. Because my son with 10 years experience at the police department, he's making probably $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 more an hour. And that makes a difference. If you want a good qualified person that's going to do the job, is not going to be a liability to the county, which is a huge financial liability, which hurts something else, excuse me. But you're going to have to get the salary. Like I said, Franklin County, 51 more and a vehicle. They're a county of about 10,000 people, and which we're about 33. They got a area square mileage of 295 square miles. We're at 426, thereabouts. I have 3/4 of the county. This is my last term. I've said that, but we need to get this thing up. You got to qualify people, or not. I mean, you can have this just as a retirement job, and somebody comes in and after they retire somewhere and do the job for 4 years and going down the road. It's the same money. If you have somebody in office, as long as I've been in office, as having somebody every 4 years. The same money the county's got to put in retirement for whoever's sitting in that seat. So,
let me ask this. We had this real similar conversation a year ago. I think the seed was planted at that time that this was the direction the court was going in. And so I've got to believe that you all started making mental note of how many miles you're spending on your job. Do you have an idea at this point how many on the...
I mean, like I said,
give us a range. In other words, we're trying to quantify what you would get paid anyway.
20 to 30, I want to say.
1,000?
Yeah.
So on a low end, 20,000 miles, we're talking about $11,000 in reimbursable mileage. On a high end, we're talking about possibly exceeding your 15.6 here.
And then another thing to consider is our the JP jurisdiction is going to $20,000 in September. So it's going to push a lot of stuff out of district courts over to us, which is, in turn makes more business and work for us, which is okay. But that's just more time out rolling. You know, we get out, we, like I said, we go out and do, talk to our constituents in the neighborhoods and just, I mean, just to be seen and let them know, hey, we're out here keeping an eye on things.
I was asked I made the comment last year that I asked if I needed to start keeping up with my mileage, and I was told no, that wasn't necessary at the time. So I haven't logged it.
I thought we decided we asked you to do it last year, because I hadn't seen anything.
What we said last year was we were going to revisit this year.
Right. But yeah,
But you've got to have a ballpark idea of what you're spending on mileage.
So y'all probably losing then on mileage, and you're not getting enough mileage if you're driving 30,000.
I've got 2 vehicles I use. I have 2 vehicles, so one day I'll drive one, next day and I've gotten, I can't tell you how many more miles I have on my vehicles now than I would if I didn't use them. Because I go out and I patrol a lot. I don't not want to sit around the office. I try to get out and be seen. So I'm, the county's big. When you're driving out to Blodgett and Winfield and some of Chris has to go to Talco and Argo and places like that, you put in a lot of miles. If you're going to be proactive and be out there, you're going to put a lot of miles in.
Well, and you're going to be paid a lot of miles if you're doing that. So is the concern here that my take-home money in my pocket is going to be less, or that I'm going to be burdened with additional bookkeeping responsibility?
For me, the concern is that money, that car allowance money, pays for the vehicle that we drive. And we made a purchase based on a $25,000 vehicle based on the fact that we're getting this money that's going to pay for this vehicle. You take that away, well, if they don't take away the payment of the vehicle, we got to have a vehicle.
We're not talking about taking it away. We're talking about paying it in a different form.
Okay. I'm just saying it's...
And you've said yourself that at the low end, 20,000 miles would equate to $11,000 in your hands compared to that 15,600. So at least that helps us to understand, there would be a genuine hit there.
I would think we would need to spend a year and actually log every mile we put. Instead of just guessing and doing a ballpark, we need to know, I would think. So the county doesn't get cheated, and same for us, we know exactly.
Well,
like I said, I asked last year, and I'm pretty sure I was told, no, don't worry about that. Right now, we're just looking at things, and we can go back and look at the video. I don't remember.
I just thought you were supposed to
I asked
keep up
about
with
it. Do I need to keep up with mileage now? So no, don't worry about that right now. We're just looking at things.
Well, that's because we made the decision to keep the auto allowance the same.
Well, let's just roll it into our salary and give us a vehicle to drive.
Well, that'd be a nice raise.
Well, I mean, you did for the sheriff.
Well, y'all have a vehicle, don't you? A piece says constable on it?
Yeah.
Oh, those pieces of junk.
But you can drive them, don't cost you nothing except fuel out of your budget.
Yeah, but difference, and I won't speak to Chris, the difference with me on that is I drive a lot out of town. I do the stuff. I've already had one breakdown on my female deputy. It broke down out of town. If that happens and I had a mental patient in there, we'd have all kinds of problems. And these cars really aren't, you don't know if it's going to make it to where you're going.
They got $150,000 of hard miles that they're handed down from the sheriff's department, taking off their patrol on there, and then giving to us. And we pay them around, our reserves get out, and they try to search and find these people that's got warrants and whatever. But to use every day, especially those Dodges, whatever.
Well, and I think we hope that you're not using those. That's why we pay this car allowance.
John just asked a question about that.
Yeah, I don't think we want them using company vehicles, and I don't think we want to provide company vehicles.
The only time I use my patrol vehicle is if I need a police presence where where I've got to haul somebody in the back of it, for safety reasons.
Yeah.
I know it was brought up a year or two ago how I used that patrol vehicle.
That doesn't matter. I'm just saying for your main vehicle. Yeah.
But outside of that, I'm in my truck or my own SUV constantly going. I don't use that patrol vehicle unless it's absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Like I say.
That's good.
I feel like what is good and fair for the sheriff would be good and fair for us.
I think that'd be real fair.
Well, he drives the little blue car. It's a little raggedy car too. He drives back and forth around. Yeah. But he don't drive. He drives one of them used cars like y'all got when he drives one. It's got a lot of miles on it. Yeah. I mean.
I can tell you this, on those charges that we're having to drive, and probably the rain goes when they come down, you're gonna spend, if we start driving that much, you're gonna spend a lot of money in repairs, because I'm constantly, even with that one not being driven that much, I'm constantly having it out of the county barn, having stuff done. I just had $2,000 worth of work done to the one that's got 170,000 miles on it. It's not worth spending $2,000 on it. That's whatever y'all decide, obviously, y'all are in charge. I just.
Well, what you're suggesting, just to quantify it, would be a $60,000 salary in a company car.
And that's what you did for the sheriff.
But we're not talking about the sheriff.
Well, I mean, it's the same thing.
No, I think he bought the car out of his budget, though.
No.
Well, okay. Just roll it in there and we'll drive and turn it on.
Well, that would increase. That would increase it. I'm trying to keep things about on par.
Well, can we do what I suggested? Can we roll it one more year like we are, and we'll start logging every mile that we put on the car, every expense that we pay out, as far as oil changes, tire.
We don't care about that. We just want the mileage, because that covers your expenses, your wear and tear on your vehicle.
All you're keeping up with is miles. All those expenses are up to you.
So I'm saying we can log that, and that way we know next year exactly what we're at, whether we're losing or gaining or whatever it is.
Well, expenses do matter. The expenses do matter.
How so?
I mean, that plays into it too.
But we're not concerned with that. We just write a flat check. But that's what 57 cents a mile is designed to cover, is the cost of the vehicle, depreciation, the cost of all the maintenance, tires, insurance, repairs, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, that's what it's designed to do. And I think that's based on a $35,000 vehicle.
Well, that $11,000 you talk about based off his ballpark, that won't cover it. You're talking about your vehicle payment that we have to make, the insurance that we have to have on it, the repairs that we have to make to them, the depreciation on the vehicle. That $11,000 wouldn't come close to covering.
15.6? Duh. 15.6.
No, I'm talking about the 11,000 he was saying based off of Chris's ballpark of 20,000 miles.
That's the minimum. Yeah, but this says 30,000 miles is more than that. That's one reason I drive a used U-Haul rental truck that I bought and fixed up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's a used vehicle, simple little truck, so I wouldn't have a high payment on it,
You were going to say something, sir?
No, that 57.5, it considers all those mileage. That's when they calculate how much you get reimbursed every year. They add all that in there, like Brian said.
Is that where we are, 57.5 right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You'd have to drive a whole lot of miles every day.
Well, you consider too the 4-hour days or patrol hour in prison.
Y'all drive a lot. I see constable cars out.
We have reserve deputies use our patrol cars. I have a reserve deputy that she's not putting in as many hours now just because of all the coronas and everything with her own job. But I have a deputy constable that works for free most of the time, anywhere from 20 to 30 hours a week for free. And there's no telling how much the kind of money that she's responsible for bringing into our office that otherwise wouldn't get brought in. I mean, she's out there on these warrants that are, anywhere from a year to 5, 10 years old that were just been forgotten about. She gets out and patrols and meets with these people and gets them coming in, gets them paying money. So she's very valuable. And so is his.
Guys, I understand where you're coming from. I really do. But I want you to understand that you're looking at a group up here that made this transaction years ago. We didn't roll our pay into our salary. And I don't know what these guys get annually from what they used to get from $15,600, the same as yours. But I guess it's less. I don't know. What do y'all get?
Probably $6,500 to $7,500.
Okay. So a $9,000 reduction in the pay for that office. So these were all, now the sheriff, I understand that was a different situation here.
But can you explain to me how that is any different from us?
I guess I'd have to roll that.
This looks like
tape.
you're living off
Listen,
of it
I don't remember.
as your income.
Say it again.
This looks
But he wasn't getting 15.6.
15.6 looks like.
Yes. The sheriff got the same thing as all the commissioners and the constable. The only reason the constable and the sheriff got it is because the commissioner got it. Once they got it, they gave it to us.
Okay, but do we provide him a vehicle?
Yes. The blue Dodge Dart or whatever it is.
This was just one of their service vehicles, you know.
Well, that wasn't originally the way it was set up. He was driving a Honda Accord at the time we
This
did
car was, I think, was confiscated off of the drug deal I think he's using now.
Okay. So when we made that deal, he was going to use his personal vehicle. It wasn't, we're going to provide you a company car and roll your mileage into your salary.
But it looks like you're using auto allowance as your income.
There's a portion
You know?
that I admitted to
Yeah.
Mr. Riddle.
But
that was
for clarification, you turn in the mileage, you're probably still going to get that money back under normal circumstances. That's 27,000 miles roughly a year. So it's not like we're cutting out your auto allowance and we're cutting your throat. And then when I researched some of the salaries around different county stuff in our county sizes, you know, population-wise and everything, it was pretty fair to me. It looked pretty normal, what I saw. So
But you got
that's what I'm asking.
next door in Morris County, for instance, there's a part-time deal. The guy, well, the one before, he ran a record company mechanic. You know, he just did it kind of as a sideline thing.
Yeah.
This guy
Smaller
now-
counties, it's part-timers. A lot of them are. I know that. I realize that.
This guy now, he's a retired DPS trooper.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually running for sheriff now, but I'm talking about a full-time constable that actually comes in and works every day in a county next door to us here. That's what I'm not referring to.
Here's my suggestion. I suggest, this is a big decision here. At least these guys perceive it as a big decision. It's a big decision for me. I suggest we do what Ray is saying. Keep it the same this year. Start logging that miles. We sit down at the negotiating table next year.
I'm fine with that. Let's do that. And we got to start somewhere.
But
We
be
didn't do it
prepared
last year,
next
so
year,
let's
we
just
will
keep up
probably
with your
implement a mileage, because
And then
we're
we
trying to
make a
convert
decision.
the entire county to that.
Is there, you have some kind of form in mind you want to keep up with this on, that's something from y'all, or y'all want us to just?
There's all
Barbara, do you have
kinds
the
of
form? Barbara has the
apps on
form.
your phone that you can keep track of it with real easily. My son has to do
Look at
that
your
in his
odometer
work.
every day or so and write down stuff you've been. Simple.
I use two vehicles. I use
Yeah.
my wife's and I only use.
That's
Yeah,
why
I know
if
my
you'll
life
if you'll
somewhere,
use that
like on the
app, you
conference,
can
I just
start
write
it
it
at the
down.
beginning of the day, and it'll log those miles for you. I mean, there's any number of ways that you can keep track of that. I mean, I don't ask these guys; they all do it. I do it.
I just jotted down a few figures here, you know, the cost. And for my vehicle that I bought, 6, 7, it's about $1,150 a month. That's counting.
Those figures are irrelevant.
What I'm saying. And then you have some other factors that come in that, I was at $1,400 at one time last year for repairs. And I know what you're saying, 57 cents a mile should cover all that. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. I've been doing this for a long time, the way we're doing it. And I'm a little reluctant to go the other way. Because like I said, I made a purchase knowing that money would come in and pay for that vehicle.
When did you make that purchase?
2 years ago.
Okay.
I had the other car that I had before, I drove it till scared to pull the trigger because it had been talked about for several years.
Well, this will make that vehicle be over 3 years old by the time that we deal with this.
This vehicle is a 2014. It was a 4-year-old vehicle when I bought it. I could have bought it. But, so okay, it's a 14. So it's actually 6 years old. It's a 6-year-old vehicle. And it's going to last me a couple more years, and it may limp all the way through this term. I don't know. But.
Okay. Well, like I said, we've got that.
Back to my original, if y'all bumped our salary and gave us a car, great.
That would be sweet.
I don't know about sweet.
It'd be real sweet.
Would it?
Yes, it would be real sweet. If you're saying roll that 15.6 into your base pay and give you a free automobile, that'd be real sweet.
Look at the other law enforcement in this county and their pay.
I'm honestly not real familiar with that. I don't know.
You got a rookie deputy coming in, and he's probably making $40,000. You got okay, you got a sergeant that's making $50,000. Then you go from there, you got a lieutenant that's probably making $55,000.
Okay, let's save that conversation for next year. You may be worth $80,000 by the time we're done here. I don't know. All we're doing is talking about a mileage reimbursement versus a fixed auto allowance. That's all we're talking about. And I think we've come up with a pretty reasonable way to deal with that. Let's check out and see what your mileage ends up being. We may be underpaying you.
The way times are now, it's all this defund the police stuff and all this stuff. It's a little touchy subject when you start taking stuff away from something.
Well, don't equate anything we're doing here today.
We're really clarifying it,
police.
classifying it like we should, and it you may come out ahead on this deal if you go over that mileage.
I mean, I will live on mileage with that.
Okay.
And that's a good thing. That'll be fair. That'll help you instead of coming out of your pocket. You'll be getting a little raise there.
And y'all be screaming the next time saying you drive too many miles.
What are we going to do? You out there doing your job? You know what I'm saying? There's no complaints on that.
We need you to stay in that office more.
We're not against you. We don't have a vendetta. We want everybody on the same plane here.
I don't want to be hard to get along with at all, but when you start talking about adjusting a person's whatever their money coming in each month, it concerns you. You know, the bills are they're still coming.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, no matter how it goes, I mean, I'm just saying that's why you get concerned about that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Is because when I look at it, I've got a certain amount coming in every month, I got a certain amount of bills coming in every month, and if that changes, it throws things out of whack, and it just causes you to be concerned.
But you get paid on the mileage every month.
And I understand exactly what you're saying, but you're still going to, like I said, it could be more. I'm just saying, that's
You're
why
looking at it like it's your salary.
That's why we get.
When you run for office, say, what's the salary up there? You call up here, we're going to tell you. It's right there, 44,258. You're like, oh, okay. Good. Can I get more? No. That's what it is. This is for your vehicle.
Right, but when you hire in, when you're told when you get the job, this is how much money you're going to bring every
That's happened to everybody, though, on all kinds of changes and things. And that's just part of running this county.
For me to leave a job already making over $50,000 a year and come take this one, that all came into play. I would have never taken it if it wasn't for that. I mean, I'd be stupid to take it. I took about $11,000 a year paycheck.
And then we sit back and look at some of the purchases that are made from the county, and it's aggravating that you're going to nitpick and take things away from us, and then we see some of those steps out there, $100-something thousand for those steps. It's the craziest thing I ever heard. You recently came to the Commissioners Court and you wanted $100,000 put into your budget.
It was my money. I'm just moving it to another classification. That didn't have nothing to do with it, Chris.
But you pick at this, but yet
I'm not picking at you, man. We're all on the same boat. Good for the goose, good for the gander. We're all doing 57.5 cents a mile. I mean, that's what we're doing. But I agree, do the mileage logs. And let's look at them and see.
Like I said, the salary is what it is, like when you say, when you come into work, the salary's higher than what it was when I first came in. But there's been a lot of years that I've been getting lots of, because I'm lumped in with, well, everybody else can get something, but elected officials don't.
That's your choice as elected official sometimes if you take a raise or don't take a raise.
But what I'm saying, we're just not administrative people. We're actually law enforcement out working. We're lumped in as an elected official, that we're an administrator, we'll send our people out to do it. We are our people.
One of the things that's going to be considered for next year also, why a county like Mount Vernon, Franklin County, has a $7,000 a year, they get paid $7,000 a year more than what we do for our base salary.
I'm gonna talk to the judge about that, see if I can get him to lower it.
I don't know, I haven't researched it myself.
I don't know.
But I mean, I can't imagine a county Mount Vernon size.
I don't know. We don't have anything to do with Mount Vernon.
Why not? But isn't that something that y'all consider when y'all think about pay? It's all the surrounding counties.
I don't know. Ran for office, I thought I'd do it. I don't know. Their commissioners may make more than us. I don't know. They have a lot less miles on the road. Yeah.
As long as I'm making what I feel is fair, I need y'all to not make something more, but I would like to.
Why does he say that?
Yeah, we're not picking on you though.
No, he's just messing with you.
And then he said, and this new constable, Dragner, or whatever, he's getting a new vehicle January 1st.
Yeah, what you got?
We would be happy with it.
You turn them into the office every month.
We'll take the 65 that he thinks we're getting.
Chris.
You take 52 in a vehicle? We might consider that next year.
Franklin County.
I'll find an extra Prius.
Square miles of Titus County and Franklin. Franklin County spends twice.
We done with this?
Yeah, I'm done.
Is there anything else on the budget? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to keep it just the way it is. You'll start, figure out what the best way to start charting your miles, and then we'll sit down at the table next year and decide what's fair. I don't think anybody up here is questioning your value or your worth or your paycheck. I know that's how it sounds.
Where's the 52 in the car? Where's that set?
It can be on the table next year.
A Prius and 52.
I do have another question right quick. I know y'all running behind, but we talked about this last year. We talked about the unmarked car that I need for mental transports. And I told the guy that, because y'all told me last year we could hire somebody to look for a grant, I had a guy do that for free, but he never could find anything.
In my talks with other situations like this, I've come to the conclusion, me personally, I don't care if it says police or constable on the side of it when we're toting a mental health person.
I don't care either. It's the law that says, and I don't want to get.
Why can't we borrow one?
I'll take a risk. I'm willing to take a risk.
Jointly and borrow a brand new Tahoe from the sheriff's office to take your mental patient to Terrell? Why can't we do that?
Do they have an unmarked one?
They have an unmarked one too. Chris drives it.
The only thing that I need is just a cage. I don't need all that other
I'll
stuff.
work a deal
I just need
and y'all can use that. I don't think there'd be no problem using the unmarked sheriff's department Tahoe.
I personally don't think there's a problem using a constable vehicle. I'm more worried about the condition of those constable vehicles.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't want to take it to Dallas or nothing.
Well, let me ask you
But
this.
around here, it's fine around here.
A local person to donate half of the money for a brand new car, would the county pick up the other half? I've got somebody.
For a mental health vehicle, I think that's a waste of money considering how many mental health trips we make out of town. I don't think that's necessary. I mean, I think he has one idea there. I don't know of how realistic that is, that we can borrow one of their vehicles or not.
I don't think it's realistic.
You don't think we can work together? We share stuff all the time.
No, because Lieutenant Bragg takes that home and uses it.
Yeah. Well, he could take one of them other cars sitting there.
Get your constable done with magnets and peel it off every time you make a mental health.
It's gotta be unmarked.
I don't know. I just don't think it's that big of a deal to warrant buying an additional vehicle just for mental health transport.
As far as the being marked, I personally don't care. I just don't want it, if somebody ever makes a complaint on it, and they come down, I don't want it to come on me.
I don't think it will. I think it'll come on the county. I think it'll come on the county. I think it'll come on your county, and we'll deal with it then. I mean, at one time I totally agreed with you, and I've read it. I know what it says. I've just talked to others that are in the similar situation. Yeah, I don't.
I'm sure people do it everywhere.
I don't see it as a big liability. Is what I'm saying. Not enough to warrant buying an additional car.
So, put a log of our miles every 6 months in your box or something?
You do it once a month, and you make as many copies as you need to for that month, and you keep up with it every day or so. You write down your mileage, where you're going today, tomorrow, keep it up. It's real simple. It's a little simple form. You turn it in to Barbara once a month.
You want a detail, like one at Joe Smith's house in Argo?
You don't have to do that,
No.
maybe as far as public record, but you could put what county road you're on, you know, so-and-so.
I don't even know that they need to do that, do they?
They do that for the IRS. They do.
For IRS you do, but for next year, which is not IRS.
Can you not use one of these apps that are available on the phone that'll show you exactly where you were driving?
As long as there's something that we can print out and shows where they were. We certainly don't need their names. I mean, what the commissioners do now, where you say county road is county
But for
road.
this year, y'all could just get that form from Barbara and just put down your mileage that you do. And like on the weekends or when your car's parked there too, just put down personal. You know, when you
Just like I do a tree.
whatever, I just write
When I go out on the, like weekend or anywhere, what road, I put road to go get a tree.
The IRS requires that.
What we're doing now, we're not required to do it because we're just paying them an allowance, nothing's required. But if we're going to pay them on a reimbursement basis, it's called an accountable plan, and we have to know where, where they're driving.
Sir? Do I?
Do you turn roads in and all that?
Me personally? Yeah, but I don't travel near. I mean, I put on there where I was going, but I don't have daily travel. I'm not familiar with it either, but I know they're out
tricky.
there.
I checked on them too. They're hard to do.
They are.
I tried it for a while. I didn't.
Consider in our case, my longest road is 4.4 miles. And I'm on all of those roads, going to any road, you have to cross any roads. If that app shows mileage road, it'll be a difficult.
Let me see what my son says he used when he.
It's just to and from.
Well, that'd be nice to have. Sounds great. I'd love to have it.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Good. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Ask John Mark if he'd borrow his Prius. Just see what it feels like. See if you like it. Let's see. Anybody need a break? I took mine. Anybody need a quick break? Okay. All right, we're actually back on. No, we missed Pam.
Pam went home.
Pam's ahead of you.
Oh, no, Pam.
I'm sorry. Could you give us just a few minutes with our elections administrator? Because I thought we were behind. You're welcome to sit in here with us. All right, Pam, how are you today? Everybody got page 201 there? All right, run through some of this with us. And
I'm not asking for any more money this year. As a matter of fact, I'm taking a reduction on about 3 line items. The clerical salary, that is just a rounded figure. I rounded up instead of rounding down. I still would like, I didn't use any of my part-time salary this past year, but we've got November coming up, and I would like to, and of course you've probably all heard about the situation of expanding the mail-in ballots. That would require an additional part-time person in my office. So I'd like to keep that there as a contingency fund.
That's the 13.
That's the 13.
Okay.
And then the 37,000 for election workers, we did not use that entire amount this past year. We're going to probably have to hire more workers for the November election. I don't expect this to be a big election year as far as the number of elections, except that we do have the presidential election coming up in November. So it was also pointed out to me that we might want to consider hiring additional election workers for the purpose of security.
Will that 37 encompass all that you're talking about? Okay.
Security, what do you mean? Somebody with a gun? An officer or what?
Just kind of somebody to hang around and help escort somebody off the premises.
Could we maybe ask the sheriff's department to come send some guys to hang out and security? Maybe we won't have to pay them any extra part of their duty that day.
That would be great. And I have a real good working relationship with the sheriff's department. So I think
Since that's what we do, maybe we can ask them, they can help us. I mean, it's election day, you got to help us. You got to need some security.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is a possibility that we might have to look at. All the blanks in between there, I understand that that's something that the auditor takes care of, so that's employee benefits.
Yeah, and that's why your total expenditures looks like a big reduction. It's
It
really
does.
just because we haven't
I did not
added
add
up
that
those
in.
figures.
You're right.
So the places where we have a difference is in travel and seminars. You're reducing that. Just don't think there'll be the need for that.
Yes, because actually I've already gotten the dates for the election law seminar. Well, actually that's next week. And we're having it via webinar. And if that works out well this year, this will be the first year that we're doing that, I can see them wanting to continue that in future years. So I don't think a 50% reduction would hinder my office.
Okay. Don't need any new equipment, and you're not factoring any of our grant money in here. You're assuming that'll be received and spent outside of this budget.
That's correct.
Because you're only going to get to keep what you spend, as I understand it.
That's
right?
correct. Yeah.
I don't have any questions. Gentlemen, anybody have a question?
I know, sir.
Looks
That
good.
auto allowance, 3,600, is that like the 15.6?
Yeah, I didn't catch
I
that
see
either.
So that's for your travel?
Yes.
You get a check every month or
$300
something?
a month, yes.
Okay. Could you get us a log this year and keep up with all your mileage you use so we can kind of monitor that and see how we want to rate that for next year?
We're asking that of everybody before we make any changes.
And Barbara has a form. Keep up with your odometer, and we'll figure it. All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, ma'am.
I still haven't gotten that other grant.
The grant notification, I don't know, it might warrant an email from Mary Grossman.
Would you do that?
I will.
Okay. All righty, thank you. Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Dean. Okay, now, Irma. Make a note there on 452-225 to change that name to Dunn. Right?
Okay, what was that?
We're going to change the name on that account from J.P. Dyke to J.P. Dunn.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, let's see how longer this is gonna
Old school.
keep on going.
We want you to be here a while before we make that change. All right, you've plugged in same as 2020 everywhere.
Yes, sir. I talked about asking for a raise for the girls. The last year I asked, and they didn't get one, so I figured it was going to be the same situation this year, so I didn't get it.
Well, that is something that we always consider kind of separately. You know, this is going to be a year to really consider a lot of things, and just my personal estimation is it's probably going to be the same way, just to go ahead and throw it out there. With folks clamoring for reduction in property values and taxes and anything else that can help them out in this horrible economic year, that will probably be the case. I haven't talked to these guys about it. I'm just telling you my opinion.
And then on your auto allowance, we want you to do an auto form, mileage form. Get one from Barbara and just put down on your odometer all your working miles for this year. Then we'll have accountability for it to plan how much auto allowance you need for next year. Doing some pre-planning there. And what it is, we could go to mileage, or we may put it at the set fee, but everybody else does mileage, 57.5 cents a mile, and just take off all your personal use off of there.
Okay, so I'm just going to take the loan whenever I get home in the middle of the night. And
when you use your car for work. Yeah.
We're probably going to be transitioning with next year to get all elected officials under the same mileage claim situation rather than paying a fixed auto allowance. And we're going to see if that's fair. If it's not fair, we'll discuss that then. But next year we'll be able to sit down at this table and you can say, okay, I drove X number of miles, and if I had been claiming mileage, I would have received this much money. And we'll compare that to what this fixed amount is and decide if that's fair, if it needs to be adjusted. But the idea will be that all elected officials will eventually be on a per mile reimbursement rather than a fixed allowance. And there are some, we'll probably be researching it, but there are some telephone apps out there that make this job a little simpler as far as claiming mileage that will accumulate your miles for you while you're out driving. I'm not personally real familiar with them, but I know they're out there. So again, that would be to start. You might want to start now to get used to it, but start at October 1 and we'll carry it through till next year. I would say you start now so that we've got 12 full months by the time we sit down here with you at next year's budget hearings. And you
we start that like
October 1st.
Well, I'm saying if she started now, at least she could have a full year by the time we sit down here next year.
Averages.
Yeah, or you can use averages for 6 months, but let's just try to get an idea of what your true mileage is that you're incurring as part of your job.
So if the driving is more, they're spending more, so you guys are going to give.
Well, we're going to pay you this. We're going to pay you the $7,200 just the way it is for the upcoming budget year. But we're asking you to this time next year be able to tell us, well, it looks like I'm incurring this many miles per year, and we can compare that to that $7,200 and decide what we're going to do at that time.
Okay. We can do that. And that is for everybody's doing that?
Every elected
May I ask
official.
why?
That's just showing clarification, justification of why we're paying that auto allowance, and people aren't counting it as their income. So most people look at that and say, well, I make $40,000, because I get $10,000 auto allowance, I make $50,000 a year. And they live off of it when we're allowing it for auto expense. And so we want to know what's going on and keep up with what we're paying. And the IRS is 57.5 cents a mile. That's what they recommend we reimburse for mileage.
It varies. The one that was last year before that, 58.
Yeah, it's 58 year before that, but
Changes every January.
changes every year.
We consider, us, JPs.
Yeah,
We
some
have to
years
consider,
you may be going in the hole.
salary because, we are on the 24/7 call. You work in the office and then they call you. Just like this past weekend, I had fatality. Mom Cell Road, and I stayed 4 hours there. Came home, I lay down to sleep. 3 hours later, the PD is calling me. and 5 more hours by there. You know, then from there, you know, going back to the office, and so that all this has to be logged into.
Well,
No,
if
not
we were,
you're
if,
not clocking in and out. No, you're on salary.
if we were to switch you over to where you were claiming mileage instead of receiving $7,200 a year, that's what we want to see is how will that financially impact you if we asked you to do that next year?
1 year. Yes, sir?
In other words, if you tell us you only drove 8,000 miles times 57 cents there and you're only getting 5,000 instead of this 7,200, we will potentially address that. But all these commissioners and myself years ago made that conversion over. We did away with the fixed auto allowance and went to mile claim.
Now, you want just the amount of miles that's been driven, or you want actually the, whatever is showing on the odometer?
We need some kind of description.
Talking about your business miles incurred in your job as a JP.
Yes.
On a day-by-day
Are you
basis.
going to email us the form?
Yes.
So if you drove 80 miles, you just, in a day, you put 80 miles in. Just actually where you would like you went
This year, we don't have to know that you're going to so-and-so's road, somebody's wreck or something. But then, for justification in the future, if we switch you over to that and say, we're going to do that now, you had to for the IRS. So, we just want the miles this year. So keep up with it daily. It makes it easy to keep up with for us. And we'll turn in once a month to Barbara. My month.
And there may be a telephone app that you can use just for this purpose that would actually track exactly where you went, how many miles you incurred each day.
And miles from your home to the office don't count.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's just one trip per day, is that right? Or if you go home for lunch and you go home for an afternoon break, that's still
No,
not
she's saying that it don't count. From
But if
my
you get-
house to the office don't count.
Does not count. Or where
But do
you
you-
begin work. For example, if there's an accident near your home, well, that first 3 miles to the accident would not count. But then from the accident to work would count, according to the IRS.
So if you get called out, if she get called out in the middle of the night to go, would she start her time then? When she left the house because she's on the job? Is that?
Well, if you get called out in the middle of the night, you have to look at where's the accident.
Right. Go to the accident.
So it would either be from the courthouse or from her home, whichever one was last.
Let's say she's at home at 2 o'clock in the morning, would she start her time at home? Go to
Yes.
the accident?
The answer to that is yes.
Yes, that's what I was trying to figure. Because she's having to go to work, left home, having to go direct to the accident.
That is not what the IRS says.
I think it does.
Has it changed within the last 2 years? Because that's not what it's historically said. But we can look that up at that time when it's time for us to make that,
Because
make that decision.
Well, yeah, I mean, if I'm at my house and they call me 2 in the morning, so
Right.
do I need to drive to the office and, okay,
No.
how's that count?
No, I
That's
don't.
not all I'm saying. No.
I think under that circumstance, if she goes to the office and comes home at night and she gets called out at midnight, at 3 o'clock, and 5 a.m., I'm starting my mileage when I leave my
When I leave my
office.
house.
If that's the choice of the court, that's certainly allowable, but that's not what the IRS does.
I'm not challenging you on that. I just like to see that. I just don't think
I mean,
that's
you can do that,
correct.
it's under accountable plan, and your travel from your home to work is not covered. I'll give you an example, it's the same one I just gave you. If there's an accident, from your house to the accident, it's 3 miles, we're gonna pay you for that 3 miles. If the accident, if you have to come from your home to the courthouse and the accident is then farther away, we're only gonna pay for that.
Yeah, we agree with that. We
We're
agree
not
with
turning this
that.
into the IRS and writing it off our taxes.
Huh?
We're working. She's working. That's her precinct. She lives in her precinct. She gets in her car, she's working, going to that wreck.
Y'all can
So
decide
she
however you
can,
want.
we need to decide that and vote on it. That's the way I would look at it.
Well, let's just be sure there's not going to be any IRS claim.
Right.
But, yeah,
That's
if
why
she
when
comes
I go
to work and
I
she's
make
sitting
my
at her
precinct
desk,
100%. I mean, I'm looking, if I hit a pothole, I'm coming back and fix it. I'm working when I'm in my car. I'm constantly looking at the signs, the trees, the ditches.
Well, like I
All
said,
the way there back, it's just something, it's in your brain now. Once you're commissioned, all you think about is work. So we need to probably vote on that instead of to and from work, you know.
well, like I said,
It's for our mileage for our
she
vehicle.
gets up, goes to a wreck, she's going to work.
That's right. Well, that's for sure, 100%.
But does she take off that 6-mile round trip if she gets out in the middle of the night? I say no.
No, I don't think so. I just think,
I think
like I
it's
said,
fair if I get up 2 in the morning, just like I said, this past weekend.
Yes.
We'll do a little research.
Go on and drive and stay there 3 hours, come back. 3 hours later, they call you again. You have to get up and go back again. And then I have to come to my house so I can go take a shower because
That
I'm
seems
not going to
fair
be
to
going
me.
to the office
Yeah,
to work and
okay.
smoky clothes.
we want you clean.
We will get some more clarification on that. But this year is kind of a trial run for you to see how many miles you spend approximately in your job.
But I'm going to be counting the time if I get called out when I'm at home, even if I have to come to the office to magistrate or juvenile, because that happens a lot in the middle of the night too.
Yes.
I think
Go to
you
work.
should.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I am going to on that.
But in the
part.
meantime, we'll get some more clarification.
Okay.
But you just keep doing a good job.
And we need to call the county extension agent, tell them we're just going to do that this year. We're going to pay them the same this year, and they're going to have to turn in starting October 4th.
Will you do that?
Justify
Help me
that.
remember by you doing that.
I can go by there.
In other words, what's fair for everybody
That's
else
right.
is fair
That's
for
right.
them too.
You
Okay.
go by there, Dan?
I'll go by
You go by out there this afternoon?
All right.
I'll take care of that.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Irvin.
Thank you, ma'am.
Be careful out there.
Hi, Steve. Okay. He's asking to stay the same for now. The conversation we've been having that's been taking quite a bit of time is looking at your auto allowance amount of $7,200. And we're not going to make a change to that this year, but we are going to ask you to start logging your miles so that we can compare your real actual miles driven times 57.5 cents and see how it compares with this, because we are considering making a changeover to all elected officials going to mileage actual claimed at 57.5 cents next year for the 2021-2022 year.
Okay. Now, this mileage is on, when I'm on, especially when I'm on call, it's going to call 24 hours a day, so,
That's correct. The only conversation we were having here is how many times do you have to, if you leave your house and go out to do a inquest, do you have to reduce it by the miles from your house to the office? And we're going to get some clarification on that. But in the meantime,
well, part of it, I generally go after an inquest, I'll go to the office from the inquest and contact the medical examiner and everything like
Yeah,
that.
as long as you're working, just as long as it's not personal.
Oh,
If you're
no.
If you're running out to Lowe's on Sunday and back, just count it off your miles. Just all your work miles, keep up with them. That'd be good. And Barbara has a sheet, it's real simple. We turn it in once a month.
Judge, you want me to ask everyone to consider starting that now? When I send this mileage, when I send this sheet out to them? Just like.
Yeah, it'd be nice for.
yeah, I think it'd be a good idea for them to be able to come to us with a total, here's 12 months, mid-July to mid-July, this is about what it took.
And are we having them turn that in monthly just to make sure that they're doing it? I mean, what's the goal? I'm not going to need it for anything.
I think it's just something that we can look at, I mean, that we'll compile and have it for,
Right.
to look
I
at.
think it'd be easier for us to keep up with they turned in monthly instead of waiting and losing it or getting it wet or something.
I think that'd be a good idea. Turn it in.
Turn it in, get in the habit of it. And then we need to have on the agenda, and Commissioner Court can't do it next month's meeting, but we'll have a meeting about what the guidelines are for that. To and from work, that can be up to us. We're not turning in for IRS. And my justification is that, even you too, to and from work, we do a lot of stuff for work. When I'm in my truck, I'm constantly looking at everything that needs to be reported. I take different routes to work. I take different routes home. But anything personal, if I run to Lowe's and back, it's about 4 miles or something. But I document for sure. But when I'm in my truck, I am in my precinct, coming and going from my house. And I'm looking, like you said, everything that deals with me, every sign, every tree, every road bump, every little detail. And so to and from work for me sometimes maybe 10 miles instead of 8 miles over there and back, because I go different routes and stuff all the time just because I'm dealing with work. It is hard not to stop and look at something, pick up junk in the road. I mean, that's my job. So
I agree with that.
Yeah, and as far as JPs, constables, they're kind of like law officers to me. They ain't messing around. They're reporting stuff, got your radios. I mean, that's the extra security almost, you coming back forward to the house.
When I'm out, especially on week's call, or even when I'm during the week, you know,
our job is out in our precinct. We're not just office people going to the office and back every day. So out and about is a lot. That's part of our job. So we'll get that classified, all that.
So I'll just keep us like that.
Yeah, that's the way I do it. The easiest way.
It's just like you go out for the day.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You like you going out today. You drove 80 miles. Just say I was at County Road 3255, and then the mileage, whatever you put that, you know, just it's not your. I don't keep it the dollar. I just put the total miles.
Make a few highlighters on there so you remember that day. Sometimes put somebody's name.
There's a date on it, and what you did, and your mileage. And like I said, some of them got odometer readings, some of them don't. But you know, I just put like we was going out 3355, tearing it up. I'd go out there and I'd say I was at 3355. But you know, like you go, I'm at 3355 accident or something like that. Well, it may not be there, but that's all.
Well,
clarification.
The majority of my travel is back and forth from the hospital.
Yes. Yeah. Like I said, that's the hospitals.
I've been doing it wrong all these years. If I understand it right, if I get a call out and I need a chainsaw, I go to the shop. I leave my house, I go to the shop, I go cut the tree up, come back, I count the miles.
Yes.
From the time I left my house.
Because we live in our, you may stop, pick something out in your driveway right then. It's in that county right away. We'll work.
That's just
that's crazy. And you're always in yours. You got to represent.
Anytime I'm on call, I don't even go out of town.
Yeah.
But if I'm traveling around for whatever reason, whether it be personal or not, I've got my stuff in my truck because I'm on call.
Yeah, it's your office.
When I'm going to get a call. And, you know, it might be 2 deaths in one day that, you know, just as I go home and, you know, go before go to work.
But it's hard to distinguish them two apart.
I'm quite certain that this court will allow every bit of that mileage. What we want to find out is where we might be in conflict with the IRS.
Okay.
And that's probably if we decided to go against what the IRS says,
we do.
We could make that our policy, and then we're just risking. What are we doing? That's really his. I mean, it's his responsibility to claim those miles on his tax return. It really has nothing to do with the county.
No, it has to do with whether or not it's a fringe benefit.
Yeah.
From the IRS's standpoint, Now, I don't know specifically for commissioners or JPs where I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
When you're.
That Chris Durant can't go nowhere. He ain't working.
Right.
He's working in the church when he's at church. You know, I mean, that's just their job. They're law enforcement people.
But
You know.
the IRS regulations, whether or not it's a fringe benefit, you
Yeah.
travel from your home to your work. But
Yeah.
that is related to, people.
Let's
who
just,
work
you
in-
and I, look and see what it says so that we can
Yeah.
all go into this.
Well, just like Tuesday, I got a chance, I had a tree down, I went out, I left the house, I turned my mileage in the time I got back.
That's what I would do too.
Because I just.
When you
But again, that's not
step out
what's
the
in
street,
here.
you
That's
in
not
your
what we're
precinct, you at
discussing.
work.
Right, I understand.
I believe Kent County had an audit on this about 3 years ago. So we don't want to fall into that trap. We'll just do it right, whatever y'all decide. Be aware that.
I get mileage, I don't get paid.
All right, we'll check into that. But yeah, Steve, this is good, man.
Anything else?
No, thank you. Are you on call this week or?
Appreciate y'all taking that call from me. Appreciate y'all taking that call from that lady call. She's gonna get hold of them, so she called your people. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate your job y'all do too.
I enjoyed it. Hope to continue to.
Thank you, don't have no trouble, sir. Good, man.
All right, thank you very much.
Steve.
While I've still got you, let's talk about, not you. David Colley is not going to be here with us today or tomorrow because he's on vacation. He's going to come and present his budget request in Commissioners Court on Monday. And he's looking at some fairly substantial increases. Right now it's just Chuck and David. He has no secretary. He has no third assistant. He has no investigator. So he's coming at this thing.
So for sure he wants to replace his own self as assistant DA.
Obviously.
Okay, so we know that's a given. All right. The only two new things are, well, that's for receptionist too, aren't they?
Actually, I think there's three things.
I thought it was going to be
receptionist, maybe a court assistant. I can't remember.
I thought that was going to be the same job, secretary and
I got it.
receptionist, and then
It's in there.
investigator. So he's asking for 3, I think, extra.
Secretary.
Can we talk about this now? Everybody's cool about talking about it?
Oh, yeah. We're live.
I got one idea about moving the lady from the DPS office, if he would be interested to use her for his secretary lady, or they call her paralegal, or whatever she is, his office lady. I mean, she could be highly skilled at it, and that would save us a position that I don't know what the consequences are if we
I think
quit
you'll
saying that.
find a friend right here.
I may get arrested on the way home or something.
You'll be a
Something
marked
from
man.
DPS. I'm just saying that's a position we could move and eliminate a position to create a position.
Well, that has always been a subject of conversation.
Yeah, he is.
Carl did research this. He did a listserv research, and the vast majority of counties do provide that in similar situations. That doesn't mean it's the law. It doesn't mean you have to do it. But it's not uncommon, is what I'm saying. In fact, it's prevalent.
That's what he said.
Okay, that's
Okay, but
subject.
anyway, yeah, he has positions to deal with. We're going to deal with a lot of stuff.
That's subject one, is David Colley requesting, we're talking about it's going to be 6 figures before it's all over with. That money, that expense is shared with Camp County. Right now, it's about a 70-30 split between those total expenses. Camp County judge has told me they'd be good for about $50,000, not his entire request, but a good chunk of it, which means our responsibility, if we were on par with Camp County, would be somewhere in the $120,000 range. We may need to ease him into this, and all of you all probably have some preconceived notions as to what you would like to see different at the DA's office and how much more capability you think he needs over there. Granted, Chuck's probably more efficient in his job than David. David's relatively new. It's not a mark against David, but Chuck's got, 20 years of experience on David. And David, so we're going to have to ask David, tell us why you need an investigator, why you need this and that. I think a secretary is a reasonable request. I think that an assistant DA, obviously that's a given, but you're going to need to ask him about this investigator and about this third DA if that's really necessary.
Judge Lee, can I add something?
Sure.
He asked my office to make an estimate for him of what the cost would be. What he asked for was a receptionist at $13, a legal assistant at $15 per hour, an investigator at $47,500, and then to replace the assistant DA at $70,000. So 100% of all of those with benefits come to $257,000 and some change. Of course, we would take off the assistant DA because we're already doing that.
What is he currently making?
I don't know, right?
It should be roughly a wash, right?
It should be. So I'm assuming we'll take that off. So from 257, it's 95,000 based on what he recommended the new pay be. So we're looking at, $150,000, $158,000, and 70% of that to us, or $100,000 to us. I guess if Kent County's only going to pay $50,000. So that's a ballpark figure.
Yeah.
But now the thing to keep in mind is he's not requesting this until January 1st, because only 9 months of that would be during his term, because it doesn't start until January 1st. I guess that's a decision for the court to decide if we want to fund that, starting in September. Anyway, I wanted to bring that to your attention.
By the 24th of that's not this week. That's not next. What is Monday?
Monday's
27.
Okay, so we're talking about, I asked John Martin to give me a commitment on when he would have a revised contract agreement, whatever you want to call it, with Chief McRae, since we've converted from paying the city for those services to now we're basically paying an individual, and I want to get that document where we had an agreement with the city to show an agreement with the relationship with Chief McRae individually, and he will have that revised. We do have an existing agreement with the city. John Mark will revise that to deal with him individually. Like it or not, I'm going to recommend that you all consider increasing McRae's pay slightly on that. I don't believe he's had an increase there in, I don't remember, 6, 7, 8 years there to the city, or at least what he's been getting paid by the city. That'll be one consideration. Be thinking about this, and I think you will all agree with me. I don't know if this is fair. I don't know how you can do it. I'm talking about David Holmes' pay. I think David has elevated himself to a position of being more than a janitorial staff. I don't know how you quantify it. I don't know if you quantify it. I don't know if you're even interested, but that's something that I want you to think about. You've got a guy there in that position that has clearly shown himself to be far more than anything we've ever had in just a plain janitorial staff. So if you called him instead of custodian, you now have, chief of maintenance and operation. Something like that, and that would obviously elevate him well beyond Irma. But you look around and see the things that he's done for us and the money that he's saved and the fact that he is probably working considerably more hours than he's reporting. I have not had this discussion with David. He has not come to me. This is just me thinking he would not know it. He does not know that I'm discussing this with you. Just something for you to think about.
And he probably would not come to you either. Go to David.
Probably not.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I know I agree with everything you're saying. He's a lot more. I don't know how this courthouse for a year now.
He goes there.
It's just tremendous asking for that we asked for the money, so I don't know.
He's something else.
And I don't know if he's turning any mileage or not either, but he's using his vehicle to go to the extension office, do all the work out
He
there.
brings his trailer and all stuff around.
Does David report any mileage?
He's a worker, man.
No? Okay.
The meal center, I mean.
Well, I need to tell him to do that immediately.
He needs to do that, and I just thought about that the other day.
Well, do we need to do that, or do we need to reallocate that white pickup truck for his use?
Well, I mean, that could be another consideration right there.
I mean, I've kept that white pickup truck just because it's probably worth more as a running vehicle than we're going to get for it. We could always sell it, you know, I'm sure you get $3,000.
And I know that. If I ain't in my truck working, I'm like,
But like I said, you know, he does a lot of travel, 'cause I see him.
yeah. It's just, commissioners get messed up mentally when they're in office and they even look at tech. I'm calling tech stop out there
Yeah,
stuff.
two
with
of them.
work. I mean, it's messing me up bad.
Hey, Barbara, where is our janitorial pay in here?
Or, I couldn't hear you, Judge. What'd you say?
Janitorial pay here?
Janitorial pay.
Y'all got a different book than me.
It's in the can.
Yeah,
Do you remember?
I know he goes above and beyond.
he does.
Well, I wanted you to know what his current pay is so that you could be thinking about what you thought that was worth.
I don't remember.
Is that all?
And you know, I tell you, he never complains.
Never had. I've never had any
I've never
complaints to me
I've never
about
seen
it.
Be talking about something. The next day he done power washing. How you beat anything I ever saw? Man, be good.
Tell you what, I'll find out that figure that he's making and let you know.
I think it's around $30,000.
About 15, a little 14 something an hour.
That's what I think so.
Okay, I'll find
I
that
think
out.
it's 1486, so I could be wrong. Judge Lee, I do have a couple more things.
Yes.
Is this a good time?
Yeah, you got us all here.
The contribution that we make to TCDRS for our retirement is going from 11.82 to 11.88. Just countywide, that's only about $4,000 increase, so that'll be split among everybody's budget depending on, you know, the retirement, the amount of salaries there. So if they think their budget's going to stay the same, it's actually going to go up for that little tiny percentage. And I want y'all to know because someone may ask you a question about that.
It's about the smallest increase we've seen since I've been in office, I think.
Yeah, they said you can come and talk to them, negotiate, but, I mean, it's good. I'm very pleased with it. Another thing that we talked about with regard to JP 1 and 2, now neither of them brought this up. If you remember, Steve had to come and ask for $3,000 off this expense line because he was not getting enough of those DDC fees to pay. And at that time, we discussed the possibility during budget of giving them both an office and expense line instead of relying on collecting fees in order to pay for that. Now, they didn't ask for it today, but we had talked about it, and these are my notes from the whole year. Anything we mentioned during court, I've got it jotted down here to talk about. So since they didn't mention it, do we want to leave that alone?
No, I think it's an oversight.
We need to go ahead and put this in here. You want to leave it at $3,000 for each one? I mean, that's what Steve requested last year. Or do we want to start at 2? You know, he had kind of a backlog of some things that he had bought that caused his numbers to be a little higher. Things that needed to be, in his opinion, fixed or corrected.
In other words, he went over budget and we had to make up for that.
Yes.
I'd leave it at the 3 then.
Both of them at 3?
Yeah, I thought you were saying we didn't have the 3 in there.
We do not have it in there for Irma, but we did for him. We did a budget amendment for that to cover it.
So how do we put them both on par? They should be on par this next.
Well, we didn't. Well, that's what I'm requesting, to do that for next year, to put them both on par. Both of them will have
Yes,
to go.
I agree. Yes, that's what you should do.
What's the line on?
Office expense within his budget. He's got $3,000 and she does not have a line.
Okay. Yeah, I saw she had 0.
With regard to road materials, at one point we talked about the possibility of combining those accounts so that you have road oil and other road materials and not have all those other line items within your budgets. Do y'all want to do that? Or what do you want to do on your budgets?
What makes sense to you from
I think the fewer lines we have, the easier it is. If not, they call them, they need money out here, but there's not money there, but they need the next line item.
Well, but for budgeting, do you all need that kind of detail to help you keep up with what you spend?
I don't provide any gravel.
Just whatever, just with materials that we covered all, that's what you get, material.
Yeah.
There's one big item, the ergon,
Roto.
the stuff that we do, that's a different product than when we say road oil, we're talking about the old crude oil that we get from Talco or somewhere. I don't know whether
Emulsion. I thought emulsion I would have thought that Roto and Talco would be all in the same.
Yeah, I do.
Emulsion, the fog sealer, everything Ergon makes and Talco crude oil and road oil would be the same.
Okay, so we'll have road oil and we'll have other road materials. Those two line items?
I just think
problem with them being together.
I just make it road material.
We have, if you want to separate it all.
And then that road oil that we have would just be Ergon for chip seal stuff. And then Talco oil would be in road materials.
I'd like to see it separated like that.
Yeah, and it don't confuse us when we need how much chip sealing's going on.
I'm telling you, that chip seal takes your money quick.
Untouchable.
So ergon is where we're going to code the road oil, and all other materials, anything else is going to go to other road materials.
Like iron ore, where would that fall?
Other road materials.
Other road materials.
Is that okay? Okay.
Repeat that just so we're all in agreement, Barbara.
Ergon is going to be coded to road oil, and all other road materials, any kind, are going to go to other road materials.
2 accounts.
2.
Replaces how many now?
6.
There's a bunch. There's
6 or 7.
there's bridges, there's trees, there's all kinds of just, I think it's just leftover stuff from years and years and years is what it looks like to me.
We get coal mix, we get all sand mix.
Yes.
All of that to other road materials. So we'll have the road oil separately, ergon.
Yeah, because that way you have to worry about the 2 different guidelines you got to go to instead of 8.
And so it will be gravel, iron ore, flex base, culverts, any of that pertains to the road will be under other road material. Okay.
What about signs?
You have different needs within your precincts.
Yeah.
You may need more.
I've had to change mine this year.
Yeah, we've had to make several changes.
Because
I'm just trying to clean it up and make it easy.
Make it smaller.
Okay.
Make a bigger number. Instead of a 3, like instead of 6 numbers, you just have to worry about 2.
One thing I want to talk to you about, this is just my notes. We don't have an allowance within our budget anywhere. And it came up when the Terry Elliott, is that how you say it?
Adelaide.
When she retired, she had leave that she had earned that we had to pay her, and we pay for that out of Irma's some technology fund money, which is legal to do that, but we don't have anywhere within the county budget to cover those kind of things. My understanding in the past, what we've done is we have simply not hired the new person until that money was used up. Well, that works in some areas, but like in the JP's office, somebody had to train for her job, and that's why we had to do that. So we may not want to put anything in the budget for that this year, but I want to just go on record as having said we might need to consider that in the future. Something where to
In
change.
all departments or what?
Well, some places like John Mark has a little part-time salary that he's not using. Pam told you she has a part-time salary that she's not planning to use. She may have to. So we can cover it out of that for those 2 departments. But county-wide, we don't have anything like that. The other thing we don't have is if anyone were to leave that has a large amount of vacation, we don't have an allowance for that within our budget to pay that out. So it's just a long-term thing that we need to consider. And I don't have a number for you what that might be. I just want y'all to not be surprised if someone does leave us and their vacation is high. Or we might.
That happened. She was probably one of the higher ones.
Yeah, she was. And we may need to put something in place that says you must use your accrued vacation within 2 years or something. I mean, I don't know. That's just a longer term thing to deal with the handbook that we might want to consider.
How much vacation, or we don't have a limit on the vacation?
We do have a limit, but still it's big money and we're not budgeting for it.
Especially when you combine it with comp time and sick leave.
Sick leave and all of that, yeah.
It's
all combined. It can.
So I don't know if y'all want to consider that, but we'll
Yeah.
see. I have a note here that the meal center, the monthly monitoring for their new fire system to advance alarm and electronics is about an extra $826 annually. So we'll have to include that. AT&T. AT&T has gone up considerably.
Yeah, they have.
We have a list of where in August of 19, for, I think there's 12 of our accounts, we were paying $55 a month, and then it went up in March of 20 to $107 a month, and now it's gone again to $127 a month. So from August of 19.
For a single line.
Yes. Yes.
It seems like they do this to us about every 5 years, and
it's not just us. I've still got a personal line.
Maybe making a phone call to them and saying, hey, we're going to.
Well, Linda has done all that she can do. She called and asked, got the whole big list of where all we have accounts and all that kind of stuff.
What about on me? I could just cancel that landline. It's like a public line that used to be the phone out there. I had it directly. It's right to my cell phone. Just cancel that line.
That's
call my cell phone.
That's what they're going up.
Where I got it.
Is that 5
They don't have a landline.
Where can they even find that number if somebody wanted to?
I don't know.
Well,
Or something maybe.
And the bad thing about it, I don't know where they're getting the number, but they call my office. I mean, I get a call nearly every day for somebody else's precinct, and I'll either call or get them, and they'll call and say, well, I don't know what precinct I'm in. Well, how did you get my number when I'm precinct 4, and I should be 4th on the list? Why did you go down to my number? They're getting it some way or another. And
They'll say this is the only number I find.
yeah, I've had them do that.
That's what, a while ago, they called Steve's office. She called me, I need to get a phone call you need to make. So I went over and got it, and I made a phone call. So, well, I couldn't get a hold of you. I said, what number? And it wasn't a good number.
Maybe just searching.
The reason I think that they're charging more for the landlines because they are getting less landlines.
Yeah,
and
people are canceling, going straight to
they're trying to
nothing but a cell phone.
Eventually, there won't be a landline because I got away from mine.
What we can do is just.
I think everybody just call my cell phone number. That's what
We could just make an additional option on the main county 572-5000 number for county commissioners. Press this, and then we can just have it list out commissioners and their phone number.
That's the way Upshur County is.
So the number you're talking about is 572-7172? Okay, so we're going to cancel that. But here's the thing. So we're going to cancel one. Well, monthly, the increase from August of 19 until now is $849 per month.
Good.
Great. Yes.
For all these landlines.
All these,
Can we identify where those landlines go?
The maintenance barn, fax at the maintenance barn, the extension office, I guess a fax at the extension, no, 2 extension office lines and a fax at the extension office. The jail attorney phone, 2 at the way station, 1 at the trailer office, precinct 4, precinct 2, jail radio, precinct 1, precinct 3, and then there's some long distance service. And then there's another one for precinct, 2 of them, 2 more for precinct 1 and 1 for the extension office. That's the long distance charge.
I think like
call the way station, they probably don't need a landline out there.
As far as long distance on mine, I think it's on mine. And if it is, it can be canceled because I always use my cell phone for.
Right.
Same here. I've had my office phone after the first couple of months forwarded to my cell phone for 8 years. I never have changed it.
And we could do this. We could do that at the extension office. They're going to have. We can't get Suddenlink out there. That's part of the problem. But I think if we knock them down to 1 line and 1 fax, that would be adequate. And they can start using their cell phones for outbound calls if they get need.
Well, I have.
Weigh station may be running a fax or something out there, we think. You need to check with Daniel Brooks at that weigh station. Do they have a fax out there?
Let me ask
run for info? If you think they'd be cell phone folks.
Why anybody needs a fax, we got the email.
I didn't know something with their records or something.
I have a situation, maybe on that list, I'm curious. Somehow, the maintenance bar and precinct 3 had Suddenlink or something for their internet. I had to get AT&T because they didn't have it cable down to the office, and it was like $18 a month. It's probably $100 now. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well over that now. Yeah, they've really jacked these rates up because people aren't using them.
Yeah, is there a company that we can hire to come in and evaluate our phone and internet systems to see if we could, I mean, I'm not aware of one, but.
Well, we've got great rates with I'm very happy with Suddenlink phone service. The only problem is we can't get it at all these locations. We went through this years ago.
That's what the problem, I see.
That's what the problem is. Yeah, if we could go universal Suddenlink with their free long distance, et cetera, that'd be the way to go, but we can't get it to all these locations.
See, it was getting so high on the fax, I just had my fax turned off, and if I need a fax, I either go to the maintenance shop or have it sent up here.
Okay.
For this, it's ridiculous. I'm not paying that kind of money for a fax machine.
Yeah.
You know, very seldom you use, and most of it is just junk.
Right.
You know, I just.
I've never had a fax machine.
I wonder if Jeff could do it out here.
Huh?
What Jeff got,
Once you ask him.
town and fax something and cancel their lines out there. We always call him on cell phone. He take a picture and snap something to somebody that needs to. Faxes are kind of getting obsolete.
But I know I don't use them, and like I said,
We do use them in our office because we don't want to see
Yes.
anybody's personal information by email. Faxes on
Or y'all, but y'all could be Suddenlink, couldn't you?
We are suddenly, because we're
Okay.
on this list.
Okay.
Judge Lee, the way station phone numbers are 572-3692, 3693.
Hold on, 572-3692.
293 and 94.
We've got 3 out there.
Two at the way station, one that's called the trailer office.
Another thing at the way stations, the trash pickup is very expensive.
Yeah.
But before we had that, it's hard to get those guys to pick their trash up. I'll leave it at that.
well, the bad thing about the truckers out there, they'll make a mess.
Yeah, they will.
It's
They don't pick it up. It lays on the road.
That's what I'm saying.
I mean, I guess the trash pickup is what's ever in the office. They might take a bag out. I don't know.
Because I know
that trash pickup out there is expensive.
I've seen
Or the
tires.
trash service, whatever. They got a dumpster or something out there.
Yeah, they've got a dumpster.
Yeah.
One on each side, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
There's one on each
but
side.
I know that there's a lot of tires thrown out there. It's just thrown out there. I took off a truck. We were shredding out there last year and you hit them. You know, it's just more money that people are complaining about not having the trash deal. I said, well, you know, you got to look how much it costs us to take tires off. You know, a truckload to rent a trailer is $1,500. But then everything
you got to pay to have them.
Well, everything over 18 inches, it's $1 an inch.
It's just like a roadside.
You know, if you got 12, 36-inch tires in there, you got to pay. It's extra money. It's going to be $40 to $10 to $15 a tire more, and that's what hurts us. Because we got a lot of tractor tires people throw out, and
You don't have an option, do you?
no, we don't have an option. We got to get rid of them. Plus, when we had the dumpsters, they was throwing tires. How do we know that we was getting charged for their tires that they had out there already?
If they had something that slipped in out there somewhere or another in somebody's stuff,
They gonna give them back to us.
Then they're going to put them in our stuff to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So.
And then people don't realize how much how much it costs us for every dumpsters.
$300 every dump.
Yeah, but I'm saying how much it costs you to put the dumpsters out there.
It was $700 to set it, and then $300 every time they dumped it.
And the people in
the last year that we done it was $27,000 or $28,000 what it cost us to do that.
And then we had to pick up all around them.
Yeah,
we're out of that business.
Our labor, it was, we're out our labor, it don't got how much.
But people, they need
Every
to.
day I have
backhoe pushing down.
I had two guys that every day would go by both my dumpsters and pack them
And Jimmy, at one time, he had all people over there, Mr. McKelvey's picking up all the trash that the wind blew, because he was, he had the right to complain. And, you got people don't.
In fact, I went over and I called Ray and told him, I said, I'm going to be in your pasture. I'm picking up trash that's blowed off from over here over into your pasture. So
you wouldn't believe the people that you throw it in there, but most of them get in there and just throw it right back out, pillaging getting stuff that they can carry to the scrapyard.
I had one boy over there, we were fixing to pack it, and he said, wait just a minute, he was over in there when we got there to pack it down. And he said, wait just a minute, I got something else I'm trying to get. And I said, if you don't want to end up in the bottom of that thing, you better get out of there and get out of there now.
But, the bad thing about it, when they do that, they throw it all out. Then they don't pick it back up. Then it blows. That 271, Winfield was a mess. 49 was it was just chaos.
That's history, right?
Oh, I know.
That's history.
I just want people to realize how much.
I have not gotten one single call complaint.
Oh, I do. I get them.
I get
Go get your free passes.
I do. I tell them.
That's what I tell them. Go to the city water department, get you get 2 free dumps a year. Go get it and do it.
Or don't find a dumpster in town and dump it. Like most of them do. We've had to start locking ours in town.
Okay. One more question. Judge Lee, you're going to check on the weigh station in the trailer office.
Yep.
So precinct 4, 572-0402, you want to keep the line but do away with the long distance. Is that the right one?
Yeah.
Yeah? And then you want to cut your line off completely, 572-7172. And then precinct 1, Mr. Riddle, is 572-8740. Do you want to keep that one?
That's the only one I have.
Okay.
I better keep it.
Okay, and then precinct 3, 575-0478. We'll keep that one.
Is that AT&T or is it mine?
It's AT&T. These are only AT&T.
Oh, you have AT&T? They wouldn't, I thought they had something.
That's for his phone, that's not his
That's
internet.
why she's asking, do you want to keep that number at $127 a month?
Well, I've got it transferred to my cell phone, but I'm leaving in a few months. Somebody else going to have it.
Well, but there's no way for you to know how many of the calls coming to your phone are forwarded from that AT&T line.
Because
you want to take
I don't get enough calls to justify
or another and leave that line.
There's very few days that go by that I don't get at least 1 or 2 calls on mine.
I'm going to add your number to the main.
I don't like them calling me trying to get on somebody else.
Drop his.
Cut that one off?
Yeah, and then I'll add another recording to the main line where they can reach a commissioner.
What number was that? I'll take that.
I'll cut mine off too.
Well, if y'all are all going to cut y'all's off, cut mine off too. I mean,
I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting you off.
Well, like I said, till you'll see when somebody else gets your phone bill on my phone bill went up $200 because everybody cut their phone. But we've got on mine. I had on my chicken house. I've got a monitor now. It goes. They found out how to do that for your cell phone now, so you have to go to a landline. That's what I need to know.
The maintenance barn. The maintenance barn has one.
They have a fax. Maybe we can get them out of that fax machine.
Well, why don't you check with them and see what they feel like they need to keep there. They can retrain their vendors to call their cell phones and start giving out those cell phones. Now, then again,
then you got to get the money to pay them $40.
what's that going to do to the folks over that are trying to get a hold of us? I mean,
They have to make some outbound long distance.
they'll do like everybody else does.
Yeah, is your cell phone not on the website?
yeah, it's on the website.
Most of them out there, well, they don't have it. They don't have it, but they don't have it.
I mean, nothing else in our phone book no more.
Phone book?
We all get called, we just give the numbers out and go on.
I give people my number, but like I say, I've got people that they call me all the time on that.
On that landline?
Yeah, they call me and say, that's mine. That lady,
kid.
Yeah, that's what decade was you born in?
Okay, so we're going to cut precinct 4, precinct 2, precinct 1, and precinct 3.
Yes.
Okay.
Commission.
All right, now, I have one more thing.
Courthouse.
I'd just like for y'all to consider this. We have Fund 019, which is funded, this year's budget, $22,500, a transfer in from general county. And the money is to be used for $7,500 for gas and oil and $15,000 for repairs and maintenance. I believe this is where the sheriff thinks it's called the Special Road and Bridge Fund.
Yes, Fund 19, Special
Yeah.
Road and Bridge,
So
yeah.
I don't see any reason for us to keep a separate fund like this when we could put the money into your budgets. It's just extra work.
It is, and I thought we got rid of all of them. That's what we did too, is that?
No, it's here.
Well, we should get rid of it.
Okay.
They separated that when they started the unit system to give to.
Well, that was in Fund 20. Fund 20
Yeah.
had all that stuff, and I think this one was supposed to be for, but I don't know the history. You know.
Well, that, am I wrong, or was that Fund 19 set up for repairs and all for the
equipment?
Equipment,
It was bought.
shared equipment.
Shared, yeah.
I think it was.
But
initially.
I think it's supposed to be canceled, period.
I've seen that, yeah, I've seen
Zero.
that one you're talking about, and I wondered, but I just assumed that was a fund that Roger wanted to keep it separated for the maintenance.
Judge Lee, is there any reason to keep that?
Not that I know
I
of.
can't think of any reason why. It's
Just going to
you know,
split it up 4 ways?
Yes.
Do it.
And plus, I know this is not about budget deal, but we've had to work on that new reclaimer, and we spent $3,600 just on parts yesterday. And then that machine is costing us a lot of money. You know, you can't.
Is it a bad piece of equipment or just gets
It's
the brand new machine. It just takes a lot of abuse.
Because
The teeth wears out of it.
Right.
You keep using it.
yeah, but like I said, we put
That's just the way it is,
skids. We put skids 4 weeks ago and teeth on it a couple of weeks ago, and it was the same. That's about 4 weeks ago. We done the same thing.
Jeff told me yesterday out there that the skids alone are $1,800 a piece.
And this is the second time in 2 weeks or 3 weeks we replaced them.
You're talking about that roller?
No.
The
Reclaimer, the big reclaimer.
Wait a minute, what do you replace besides the teeth?
The skids.
Where it sets on the ground.
Curtis called and said, hey, the skids are messed up. So he replaced them a couple of weeks ago, and they had to replace them yesterday. And it's $1,800 every time we replace those skids.
Those things have to drag on the road.
But I just think, if we have to, my deal is
The guy's coming out Monday
Monday
morning.
On the reclaimer?
A refresher for those reclaimer, the haul truck.
But I know that, in my opinion, that machine is way too big because you can't even turn it around or get it out of the way. I just think we need 2 small machines. Like
I wish we'd have bought 2 small machines.
Bomag or whatever.
Well, do they make a smaller reclaimer?
That or Bomag, that's
that or like the Bomag. I mean, it's the same thing. It's just a smaller
version, and it's less expensive.
30-year-old. It works a little different too.
But like I said,
breaks up chunks of.
Anything else, Barbara?
Smaller pieces.
What about the insurance fund that's left over from self-insured? We're going to be putting that in general fund eventually after auditing or something?
We're going to close that. And we've got calls into net data to make sure that we do that.
But back to that big reclaimer, I'd be considered selling that for a couple of smaller pieces of equipment.
We can do the job.
Well,
I like the Bomag the best myself.
If you can find, like I said, we just have to look. Like I said, it's just,
Like the Bomag, but it doesn't do the job that this does. I mean, it's fine.
2 or 3 years old.
Grinding.
That's a big piece of machine we bought.
Not the one we just bought.
Yeah, this one that we just bought. A big piece of machine.
Franklin County, each precinct, I guess, has a reclaimer.
They have their own Bomag.
Maybe they're smaller.
But like I said, this, I would, as saying it's a good machine, but when you go every 2 weeks or 3 weeks and putting $3,000 in it, it's not, you're not, you know.
I mean, they're doing something wrong. We need to get booked.
Well, like I said, when, you know, Curtis, you know, we used it, y'all used it the last couple of weeks, and he had to bring it in, and they had heck out of it yesterday, or day before, changed some teeth. Like I said, the middle of it, like it just heat up. But, you know, it's not nobody's fault, but I just don't, I think it's too much maintenance and too much material.
And two, it's just one machine, and there's 4 of us, so it everybody's got to have their time with it, and if we had 2 machines in the place of that one, and then our old one that we've already got, then it would be a whole lot better off. I mean, 3 of us could be working at one time, you know, tearing the road up or whatever.
I think they got a new one in one of the precincts in Franklin County. And I think it was about 300.
Yeah, it's got to be nice. We'd have to find
Same price as ours.
Yeah, that new bow mag is about as high as that test. They're high. And it's big. It's a big machine, too. I think
Because that drum
bow mag
system,
is dialed
I'll
in.
decide if we need a budget for that. Let's bring this meeting to an end.
Okay.
Probate close here in 30 minutes.
We need to put these back up.
No, we're going to do it tomorrow again.
Okay, so you're not going to be probate here?
Out down there, I will.
Okay. You'll put that back in?
No, there'll just be 3 of us here.
Okay, all right.
We had.
I'm going to leave my stuff here.
I make
we
a
need
motion,
that.
we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn at 12:37 by Commissioner Parker, and
Second.
by Commissioner Applewhite. Thanks, everybody.